1. Hokage World. Within the territory of Tianji Country. It's been 30 years. Ishida Xinkai was sitting in front of a shrine. Her figure was swaying in a hazy way, and she glanced helplessly at the night outside the window, sighing and muttering uncontrollably. The name of Ishida Xinkai is impressively engraved on the spiritual tablet in the shrine next to it. Ding. Your incense value is +1, and you currently have 9,999 incense points. At this time, a reminder sounded in Ishida Shinkai's mind, but he ignored it. He crossed over from the earth and lived his whole life without waiting for his cheat to open. Even because the Hokage world was still in war when he came here, the memory of his previous life was useless. However, Ishida Xinkai finally succeeded in taking root in Tianji Country with the thinking and vision of her previous life, and created the Ishida family, a ninja family. It's a twist of fate that the cheat was activated immediately after his death, and the name is that shit Ancestor system. You activated it but turned it on, but in the end you said that the incense value is not enough to turn it on. Originally, he was still enthusiastically accumulating the incense offered by his tribe. 1 point, 10 points, 100 points, 1,000 points. 30 years have passed, but the system has not opened a single value, so Ishida Xinkai has no idea about the upcoming 10,000 points. What hope? Most importantly, he found that in recent years, the value of incense has become less and less, and even once during the spring festival, he did not see his clansmen come to worship him in front of the shrine. This gave Ishida Xinkai even more of a bad feeling. Suddenly, the door of the ancestral hall was opened, and a man in his 20s with a gray and vicissitudes complexion slowly walked in. The man raised his head and glanced at the spiritual seat in the altar above. His eyes were slightly red, but after taking a deep breath, the man came to the divine table, picked up a joss stick, and lit it. Master Ancestor, the Ishida family suffered a catastrophe. The former head of the family died, the current head of the family was seriously injured, and countless members of the family were killed and injured. The family was almost wiped out. Please forgive me for not being able to renew the incense for you in time. The man made a distressed voice. His tone was full of laments, and while he was talking, there was a shout of killing outside. But the man turned a deaf ear to it and murmured to himself. He knew that the person on the spiritual seat obtained the chakra extraction technique by chance and worshipped the down-and-out ninja as his teacher. After that, he started from scratch and founded the Ishida family amidst the flames of war. It was once called the most powerful ninja family in Tanakuni. I didn't expect that the ancestors passed away in just 30 years, and the family fell to this point in their hands. Is my grandson dead? Hearing the words of worshipping the man in front of the shrine, Ishida Shinkai's complexion darkened. The man Ishida Xinkai knew in front of him was his own great-grandson, an ordinary person who couldn't become a ninja, and the previous patriarch in his mouth was his little grandson who used to act like a spoiled child in his arms. The shouting and killing outside still continued, and the constantly lit fire seemed to tell the tragedy of the battle. On the other hand, the man rubbed the corners of his eyes with the back of his hand, and his eyes became firm. But the man didn't say much. He ignited the sacrificial incense and planted it in the incense burner, knocked his head 3 times before getting up and leaving. From the beginning to the end, he didn't know that his ancestor was watching him silently in front of the shrine. Is the family I created alone going to disappear like this? Although he didn't know what happened outside, but he felt his great-grandson's determination to die when he left. Ding. Received incense sacrifice, incense value +1. Currently has 10,000 incense points. At the same time, a familiar voice sounded again in Ishida Shinkai's mind. Incense sacrifice is the additional incense value obtained when people in the clan sincerely offer incense. Each clan member can provide it at most once a day. This is the conclusion that Ishida Xinkai has concluded over the years. But it's a pity that his people don't know this. Originally, when Ishida Shinkai's sons were still alive, they would worship him with incense every day. Damn, you got the incense value. Cheat, you turned it on, and you said that the god's power is enough to let Lousy step on 6 paths directly. If you don't turn it on, let alone the god's power, Lousy's incense is real, it's completely broken. Hearing the system prompt, Ishida Xinkai was immediately furious. He had hope every time, but unfortunately the system was not turned on, and now people are calling at his door. It's okay if he doesn't know, but now that he knows, he can't bear it. I don't know if Ishida Shinkai's scolding had an effect, but after the sound disappeared, a golden light burst into his mind instantly. Ding. The incense value reaches 10,000 points, the Ancestor system is activated, and the ability is obtained. Descend. Ding. The incense value is converted into divine power. Congratulations to Zuling. You have obtained 100 divine power. Ding. Congratulations to Zuling. Your divine power has reached the requirements, and the Zuling Mall has opened. Ancestral Spirit. Ishida Xinkai, extremely weak, on the verge of extinction. God Power. 100, can be used to exchange items in the Ancestral Spirit Mall, extremely scarce. Please replenish immediately. Spiritual Envoy. 0, extremely scarce. Please replenish immediately. Sacred Shrine. 1, in dilapidation and damage. Please maintain it immediately. Incense value. 0, can be transformed into divine power, extremely scarce. Please replenish immediately. Homeowner. 1 population. 48. Clan Patriarch. 1, the status is abnormal. Please check it now. Clan Head. 0 Clan Family. 3 Branch House People. 12 Retainers. 10 Domestic Servants. 22. As soon as the system was turned on, Ishida Xinkai felt as if he had a certain connection with everyone in the Ishida family who had their own blood. However, before he could be happy, a golden panel flashed in front of his eyes, which immediately attracted all his attention. Looking at the flashing red exclamation marks behind every item of information on those panels, Ishida Xinkai suddenly showed bitterness. Ding. Host starts the system for the first time. Rewards newcomers with a big gift bag *1, and automatically opens it for host. Ding. Successfully opened the novice gift package. Ding. Congratulations to host for getting a one-time item Talentwood Style Chakra *1. 10% off random lottery times *1. Family Style Suit. The time limit lasts for 1 month. *1. 2. The system was turned on, but it didn't make Ishida Xinkai forget that he was still fighting outside. Thinking of the battle outside, Ishida Xinkai became a little anxious, glanced at the things in the Zuling Mall, and then quickly floated out, wanting to see what happened to his clansmen outside. At this moment, Ishida Xinkai, who has completely become the ancestor of the Ishida family with the help of the system, finally broke free from the shackles of the shrine and floated above the courtyard of the Ishida family. The courtyard of Ishida's house was full of killing creatures at the moment. Flames, water polo, and earth walls kept rising and falling. Kunai and shuriken even smashed the buildings in the huge courtyard. In just this short period of time, several servants of the Ishida family have already died, and the retainers and clan members also suffered casualties. Damn it, die for me. The man who just lit incense for Ishida Xinkai in the ancestral hall was also there. He was holding kunai at the moment. His body was covered with scars, but he was still madly attacking the rattan armored warrior in front of him regardless of the pain. Ishida Maimong struggled to resist the enemy's attack again and again, and saw the casualties of the tribe, and couldn't help but feel sad and indignant. Ancestors, future generations are not filial, and the foundation you created will be ruined. Ishida Maimong forced the person in front of him to retreat, and couldn't help but let out a cry of grief. He obeyed his father's teaching of the greatness of his ancestors since he was a child, and determined to carry forward the Ishida family. It's the end. On the opposite side, the warrior leader Sasaki Ichiro's eyes were full of coldness. He is from the Iron Country, a second-rate wandering samurai in the Iron Country, but his swordsmanship is far superior to the average chunin. As a general in the Tian Country, he knows why the Tian Country wants to attack the Ishida family. The major powers fought endlessly, and the Fire Nation and Konoha suffered heavy losses. Naturally, they would not allow ninjas to exist in the surrounding small countries in this war-torn era. The same experience of the Ishida family is repeated almost every day. Even if Tianjigua doesn't do anything, Fire Country and Konoha will never let them go. The Ishida family, your ancestors were indeed a personage, but they fell under your hands. Fortunately, you will become the third family to fall under the hands of Sasaki Ichiro. Ichiro Sasaki looked at Ishida, who was already exhausted, and couldn't help but sneered under his mask. As a wandering samurai, he enjoys the joy of the ninja family that has been passed down for tens of hundreds of years and finally destroyed in his own hands. Feeling is afraid to write, for fear of review. Sasaki Ichiro flashed in front of Ishida Maimon in an instant, pulled out the long blade at his waist, and struck without hesitation. The sharp blade tore through the air and slashed at Ishida Maimon's chest. Puff! With just one blow, Ishida Maimong was sent flying straight away. A 2-finger-wide long mark on his chest extended to his waist, and the blood instantly soaked the front half of Ishida Maimong's body. And Ishida Xinkai, who just came out of the ancestral hall, just happened to see all this. Name, Ishida Maimong. Status, Clan family member, Ishida family, S**X, male age, 24 years old, blood inheritance limit. None chakra amount, 18, genin, belief status, superficial belief, 0.01 incense value is fixed every day. Life status, seriously injured. Skills, elementary taijutsu, elementary body replacement technique, elementary transformation technique, elementary clone technique. Seeing the situation of Ishida Meimong, Ishida Xinkai's eyes twitched suddenly, and then his eyes fell on those warriors. A samurai of the land country. Old friend, you and I are as close as brothers, but your descendants can't do it properly. Ishida Xinkai narrowed his eyes when he saw the Polonia emblem on those warriors. At the beginning, he and Tanakuni Daimyo took care of each other and saved Taien's Higuo from the suffering of the war. He did not expect that his descendants would participate in the attack on Ishida's house. If the former daimyo of Maeda's country heard Ishida Shinkai's murmur here, he would be able to understand that this murmur represented a complete breakdown of the relationship between the Tianji royal family and the Ishida family. System, I'm coming. Taking a deep breath, Ishida Xinkai told the system in his heart, this is an ability brought to him after the system was activated. As long as there is a shrine or where his blood is, he can descend. Ding. Please choose the method of descent. Advent is divided into 5 types. 1. Entity descending, directly descending with the body of the ancestor spirit, needs to consume a huge amount of divine power and can release powerful attack methods. 2. Phantom descending, can descend illusory will images and can release attack methods, but the power and consumption are much smaller than the entity, and it needs the spiritual power to condense the phantom in advance. 3. When rebirth comes, part of the will can be separated for reincarnation. 4. The coming of Duoshi will split the souls of those who have their own blood in the Duoshi clan. 5. The will descends, relying on the blood of the tribe as a medium to descend the uniform consciousness of oneself. There are 5 ways of descending. No matter which one, the ancestor spirit will have all the abilities in life, and all the abilities drawn after becoming the ancestor spirit. The first 3 types either require a lot of divine power or a clone of will, or need to become a baby to regrow, none of which Ishida Xinkai can do at present, let alone the coming of the body, the original incense value. It's not enough. And if you seize the house again, there will be no fewer people in that tribe, and the most suitable thing for now is the coming of will. The target tribe, Ishida Meimong, will come. Glancing at the dying Ishida Meimong, Ishida Xinkai directly chose the 5th kind of advent without any hesitation. Spirit power -10. Ishida Meimong was already bruised and was severely injured by Sasaki Ichiro, and she was even more angry, facing the desperate situation of dying. Meimong. Seeing Meimong's injury, the surrounding Ishida family members felt anxious, but they were all entangled by the samurai of Tianjigua, and they couldn't help them at all. Seeing Ichiro Sasaki approaching Ishida Meimong with the intention of playing, and thinking of the desperation of Ishida's family today, everyone in Ishida's family felt very sad for a moment. But suddenly, the members of Ishida's family stared, and saw Ishida Meimong, who was seriously injured and on the verge of death, stood up. A mere wandering samurai with Tianjigua's miscellaneous soldiers dares to run rampant in my Ishida's house. Staring at Ichiro Sasaki in front of him with cold eyes, Ishida Meimon let out a low-pitched reprimand. 3. Ishida Meimong suddenly stood up and said something that shocked the spirits of Ishida's family. But looking at the figure of Ishida Meimong immediately, everyone in Ishida's family was full of astonishment. What's going on? Looking at Ishida Meimong, Sasaki Ichiro was also taken aback. Obviously, Ishida Meimong had already suffered a serious injury, but he actually felt a burst of heart palpitations. Ishida Xinkai has taken over Ishida Meimong's body at this moment and quickly scanned the Zilling Mall in his mind and finally confirmed 2 things. Healing scroll. There are a lot of medical chakra sealed inside, which can quickly heal the wounded. 10 divine power/peace. Experience scroll. It can permanently increase a large amount of chakra for the user and improve the user's level. 10 divine power/peace. Use the healing scroll. Ishida Xinkai issued an order from his heart and saw that the oozing wound on Ishida Meimong's body quickly healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a short breath, the open flesh and blood quickly healed together without even leaving a scar. Hey, what's going on here? Everyone in the courtyard looked at the rapidly healing wound on Ishida Meimong's body, as if they had seen a ghost. Even Ishida's family couldn't believe what they saw. The strength is too low. Use the experience scroll. Ishida Xinkai ignored the people in the courtyard just frowned and continued. He was a Jōnin before his death, so the samurai in front of him is naturally not a problem, but the premise is that he must have a Jōnin body. Ishida Meimang's strength and chakra capacity are only genin, and it is estimated that releasing a ninjutsu will be useless. After one experience scroll is used, Ishida Meimang's chakra is permanently increased by 30 points, directly reaching the level of Chunin. But Ishida Xinkai isn't satisfied, it's not enough. With a low murmur, Ishida Xinkai checked that he had 70 points left and continued to redeem an experience scroll to use it. Although chakra added another 30 points, Ishida Xinkai still did not find the feeling of Jōnin back then. Come again. The third experience scroll was exchanged and used, and Ishida Meimang's chakra amount reached 108 points, and the back of the attribute bar also became the level of Jōnin. At this moment, Ishida Meimang found the feeling he had when he was in Jōnin. Although it's a bit weaker, it's enough to deal with you. Ishida Xinkai raised his head and said with a sneer, 3 experience scrolls were consumed to allow Ishida Meimang to reach the level of Jōnin. Ishida Meimang reached Kage level. However, although he was still a little worse than when he was at his peak, it was enough to solve the immediate crisis. Dare to offend Ishida's family? Have you thought about how to die? Ishida Xinkai raised his head, staring at Sasaki Ichiro coldly. His indifferent tone seemed to be mixed with incomparable anger. It's just a waste. Ichiro Sasaki's expression was startled, but then his expression turned cold. He had already collected information about Ishida's family before he came. There are only 2 Jōnins in Ishida's family. One died 2 years ago, and the other is still seriously injured. The one in front of me called Ishida Meimang is just a waste who was destined not to be able to shine in ninjutsu since childhood. Hearing Sasaki Ichiro's words, the people around the Ishida family were very annoyed, but what the other party said was not bad. Unlike the warriors of the Iron Country who are unwilling to practice ninjutsu and believe that the spirit of martial arts is paramount, in the ninja family, a guy like Ishida Meimang who can only become Jinin in his lifetime is a complete waste. Although everyone has not said it, Ishida Meimang, as the only son of the previous patriarch, is a waste who cannot become a ninja, which is indeed extremely ironic. Sasaki Ichiro's words reached Ishida Meimang's ears, and Ishida Xinkai felt the unwillingness of a figure in his heart. Hee, they don't know that you are now a Jōnin. Let's see how the ancestors use your body to kill the enemy. Feeling the unwillingness emanating from Ishida Meimang, who was half asleep, Ishida Xinkai smiled. Everyone in Ishida's family retreated. Ishida Meimang let out a low cry, and after she finished speaking, she kicked her feet and jumped back quickly. I saw that Ishida's wheat on quickly pinched out handprints one by one like flowing water, and at the same time, the chakra in Ishida's body was also quickly gathered through his hands. Is he sealing? Everyone was taken aback when they heard Ishida Meimang's words, but they couldn't help but exclaimed when they saw Ishida Meimang's actions. Some members of the Ishida family were even more horrified, because Ishida Meimang's seal formation speed far surpassed them. As the head of Jōnin, it is estimated that the seal formation speed should not be more than this. Retreat. At the same time, they also saw that what Ishida Meimang prepared must be some kind of large-scale ninjutsu. Although they couldn't figure out why only Jōnins can release large-scale ninjutsu, they still obeyed Ishida Meimang's reminder. Bluff. Surround me, and don't let them run away. Seeing the Ishida family back away, Sasaki Ichiro felt that the Ishida family was deliberately scaring them in order to escape, and immediately ordered that there were still people around. Some terrified warriors rushed up quickly. Seeing their side being forced into a corner, the eyes of the Ishida family were full of worry, and they even regretted why they listened to Ishida Meimang just now, but now they all huddled together. Fire-style fire dragon flame bullet technique. But here, Ishida Xinkai has also completed the seal, manipulating Ishida Meimang's body to take a deep breath and blow it down quickly towards the fingertips. Buzz. The fiery breath instantly filled the entire courtyard, and a huge fire dragon with a diameter of 2 meters roared out instantly. The powerful breath made everyone's faces freeze instantly. Damn, it's a top A-level ninjutsu. How could he release it? Seeing the huge fire dragon in front of him, Sasaki Ichiro realized that the other party was not bluffing, but it was too late to disperse. The flames wrapped around the fire dragon instantly drowned the gathered Tanakuni warriors. Is this really just a Jōnin? All Ishida's family members stared at Ishida Meimang's back in horror at this moment, feeling that Ishida Meimang is so strange now. 4. The huge flame dragon released by Ishida Meimang directly occupied most of Ishida's family courtyard, and all the warriors of Tianji Kingdom were submerged. Even the already dilapidated courtyard wall of Ishida's house was shattered by Yanlong's confrontation. Soon, the flames dissipated, and hundreds of Tano country elite warriors, including Sasaki Ichiro, were all reduced to coke. Seeing that all the masters who came this trip fell into the sea of flames, the rest of the miscellaneous soldiers who were in charge of the siege dared not stay here anymore. They quickly scattered like birds and beasts and fled in all directions in a panic. Some centurions even guessed that Jōnin existed in Ishida's house, and they turned pale with fright, wishing to have 2 more legs. In this way, the Ishida family, which was originally on the verge of extinction, came into contact with the crisis because of the sudden emergence of Ishida Meimong, who released super-large A-level ninjutsu in one fell swoop. For a while, the people in Ishida's family looked at Ishida Meimong with extremely complicated eyes. Master Meimong just released seems to be a super-large A-level ninjutsu fire dragon flame bullet technique, and few people can master it proficiently. Didn't you always say that Master Meimong couldn't improve his ninjutsu attainments? How could he unleash such powerful ninjutsu? Even when the patriarch was not injured, it might be difficult to do so easily. One of the retainers of the Chunin class, Ishida Yuto, murmured with a strange expression on his face. He is not from the Ishida family, but because of the life-saving grace of the head of the Ishida family, he became a retainer of the Ishida family and used the surname of the Ishida family. At this moment, Ishida Yongdu looked at Ishida Meimong. His eyes were full of fire. For a long time, the Ishida family has used this ninjutsu to determine the position of the head of the Ishida family. At the beginning, Ishida Xinkai, the patriarch of the Ishida family, ordered a ninjutsu for each school, and the Fire Dragon Flame Bullet technique is the representative of the Fire Ninjutsu. Technique is eligible to compete for the head of the Ishida family. Judging from the performance of Ishida Meimong just now, Ishida Meimong has definitely reached the qualifications to compete for the next patriarch. Even according to the means he used to turn the tide today, it is absolutely certain that he is the next patriarch of the Ishida family. The fact that Ishida Yongdu can think of it doesn't mean that other people can't think of it. For a while, the people of Ishida's family looked at Ishida Meimong more complicated. In their view, Ishida Meimong may have been hiding herself. The patriarch of the previous generation was deeply loved by the ancestors and must have been handed down by the ancestors. Thinking of the achievements of their ancestors, they all wondered whether the previous patriarch, who had been handed down by the ancestors, had expected such a situation long ago. So he declared that his son was a waste, but secretly used it as the trump card of the Ishida family. The more people in Ishida's family think about it, the more they think about it, especially when they think of the white eyes Ishida Meimong suffered when she was a child. The group of people look extremely ashamed, feeling the shame and remorse in the eyes around him, but only without jealousy and resentment. Ishida Xinkai smiled secretly, as he should in Ishida's family. Ishida Xinkai knows that not being a ninja has always been a thorn in Ishida Meimong's heart, and who knows, this waste is now forcefully poured into Jōnin by him. Grandson, now you are not a waste. The ancestor is giving you a gift. Use wood-style chakra. After a pause, Ishida Xinkai murmured again. Ding. Success with wood-style chakra. Immediately afterwards, Ishida Xinkai immediately felt a chakra full of vitality in his body. Wood-style chakra is the product of the power of 6 paths Yangdun, and when fused with the blood wheel eye produced by the power of 6 paths Indun, one can have Rinnegan and master the power of 6 paths. Although Ishida Meimong is recognized as a waste, but with wood-style chakra, he can gradually change his physique through feedback, and even make him have a fairy body comparable to first Hokage. It can be said that with wood-style chakra, Ishida Meimong's achievements will be far more than Jōnin, and even if he can get the blood wheel eye that represents Indun, it may not be possible to give birth to the eternal Rinnegan. As expected, it is wood-style chakra. After merging wood-style chakra, Ishida Xinkai seemed to feel that Ishida Meimong's body had also been enhanced, and felt a burst of emotion in his heart. If he had had this wood-style chakra, how could Ishida's family be so far away from this land of land? Grandson, it's up to you to develop what your ancestors left you in the future. Okay, the crisis in the Ishida family is over. Grandson, the ancestor is gone. Soon, Ishida Xinkai also felt a sense of exhaustion. After all, he only descended temporarily with his blood, and he couldn't stay here for a long time. The moment Ishida Xinkai left, Ishida Meimong's body seemed to have lost its support, and she lay down on her back. Ishida Yongdu quickly came to Ishida Meimong's side to support her. The surrounding Ishida family members also quickly gathered together, their eyes full of worry. Now Ishida Meimong is the only Jōnin in the Ishida family who can block the enemy. If something happens to him, I am afraid that the Ishida family will really be ruined. Ishida Yongdu touched Ishida Meimeng's chest, feeling the vigorous and powerful heartbeat in it, and was a little surprised. But he still said, "It's okay. The young master is just a little exhausted. Just take a rest." Hearing Ishida's brave words, everyone in the Ishida family was relieved. The one-night battle made the Ishida family physically and mentally exhausted, but they couldn't help being excited when they thought that Ishida Meimong was actually a hidden Jōnin. They know very well that as long as there are Jōnin in Ishida's family, Tanakuni will not dare to do anything to them. However, Ishida Xinkai does not intend to let Tian Guagua go. Ishida Xinkai did not return to the shrine of the ancestral hall after his arrival, but came to the room of the current patriarch. 5. Entering the room, Ishida Xinkai saw Ishida Sakari, the contemporary owner, lying on a tatami against the wall. At this moment, Ishida Sora's breathing had become extremely weak, and his whole body was in a deep coma. Name, Ishida Sorakari. Status, clan family member, Ishida family, S*X, male age, 48 years old. Blood inheritance limit. None. Chakra amount, 111, Jōnin. Belief status, superficial belief, 0.01. Incense value is fixed every day. Life status, critically injured. Skills, advanced body replacement technique, advanced transformation technique, advanced clone technique, fire style, fire dragon flame bullet technique. Looking at the figure on the tatami, Ishida Xinkai sighed slightly. The current head of the family, Ishida Sora, is also one of his grandsons. He is a strong little guy who does not fight for power and wants to become the strongest ninja. Unexpectedly, the position of head of the Ishida family would fall to him in the end. Compared with the previous Ishida Meimong, Ishida Sakari at this moment is obviously more dangerous. Not only the body has been severely injured, but even the spirit seems to have been affected. It should be strongly influenced by illusion, but Tian Jigua has never had any illusion family. Looking at the state of Ishida Sora, Ishida Xinkai frowned and muttered to himself, "Forget it, you'll know when you ask." Shaking his head, Ishida Xinkai stared at the figure on the tatami and said to himself, withdrew from the state of coming to Ishida Meimong, and Ishida Xinkai's spirit was immediately restored, so it would not have any impact on the second coming. Now he wants to know who exactly is targeting his Ishida family. He knew very well that Tanakuni alone would never have the guts or ability to severely injure Ishida Sorakari into such a state. Target, Ishida Sora, the will comes. Divine power -10. Ishida Xinkai murmured to the figure on the tatami, and the scene in front of her changed instantly. Like Ishida Meimong before, due to the serious injury, Ishida Sokari's consciousness is also in chaos at this moment, and the surrounding light and shadow are constantly changing, making it impossible for Ishida Xinkai to determine where Ishida Meimeng's consciousness is. Exchange the healing scroll. Seeing this, Ishida Xinkai frowned, but because he had experienced it once with Ishida Meimong, he knew what to do. Spirit power -10. After exchanging the healing scroll, Ishida Xinkai immediately used it, and Ishida Sora's body quickly recovered under the effect of the healing scroll. You must know that the divine power consumed by exchanging 3 healing scrolls is almost comparable to shaping a Jōnin, and its healing ability is naturally nothing to say, but in an instant, Ishida Sokari's seriously injured and dying state has become healthy and excited. With the rapid recovery of Ishida Sora's body, the chaotic light and shadow around Ishida Xinkai also changed rapidly. Soon Ishida Xinkai found himself in a mountain forest. I saw the sound of a waterfall not far away. Ishida Xinkai looked up and found a figure that looked exactly like Ishida Sorakari on the tatami mat, kneeling with his eyes closed. In the middle of the waterfall, on a stone platform above the water. That was obviously the conscious body of Ishida Sakari in his own mind. At the same time, Ishida Xinkai also noticed that there were still a pile of tattered robes in the open space outside the waterfall, but it was not difficult to see from the writing on them the words on the shadow robes of 3rd Hokage and the other 4 major ninja villages. Looking at the shadow robe on the ground, the corners of Ishida Xinkai's eyes twitched. This kid actually killed Hokage in a dream. Glancing at the Ishida Kongari in the middle of the waterfall who looks like a lonely world, Ishida Xinkai is angry and laughing. Annoyed that this guy is still daydreaming in his 40s and 50s, and laughing because his grandson's dream has remained the same for so many years. But thinking of what happened to Ishida's family outside, Ishida Xinkai's face darkened again, and he immediately came to Ishida Konkari and slapped him on the head. Snapped. With a crisp sound, Ishida Sakari was hit with stares in his eyes, but he also woke up from the samadhi. Who dares to hit me? The ninja god of the ninja world? Awakened by Ishida Xinkai's slap, Ishida Sakari glanced around in a daze at first, then got up and yelled angrily when he realized it. Standing behind Ishida Sora, looking at his appearance, Ishida Xinkai was immediately out of breath, and at the same time angrily reprimanded, "Ishida's family will be exterminated, and you are still dreaming here." Ishida Xinkai opened his mouth and shouted angrily, wishing he could kick this kid into the water. What? The Ishida family was exterminated? Are you kidding me? I am the god of ninjas. Who dares to offend my Ishida family? By the way, who are you? Ishida Sorakari obviously didn't realize that he was dreaming, and when he heard Ishida Shinkai's words, he said with disdain. But soon, he looked at Ishida Xinkai suspiciously. For some reason, he seemed to have a sense of familiarity with this strange old man in front of him, but no matter how he thought about it, he couldn't confirm the identity of the other person. Grandson, show me clearly. I am your grandfather. The ancestor enshrined in the Ishida family ancestral hall. Seeing that the kid didn't recognize him, Ishida Xinkai stared. He didn't expect the grandson to forget himself so quickly, and immediately grabbed the other person by the collar, staring at him and saying sternly. Hearing Ishida Shinkai's reminder, Ishida Sorakari's expression froze for a moment, and then a vague childhood memory quickly appeared in his mind. At the same time, he remembered the portrait of Ishida Xinkai hanging in the ancestral hall. Overlapping, it is the same person. Grandpa is really you? Seeing that the other party was really his grandfather, Ishida Sorakari immediately yelled. At the age of 40 or 50, in front of Ishida Xinkai, he was still like a boy back then. 6. Seeing Ishida Sokari's appearance, Ishida Xinkai also remembered some memories of Ishida Sakari entangled around him when he was a child and asked him to teach him ninjutsu, and his face eased a lot. By the way, old man, why did you appear here? Why do you still say that our Ishida family is going to be wiped out? After a pause, Ishida Sorakari suddenly realized, and asked Ishida Xinkai with a puzzled expression. Because in the dream, his memory was still a bit chaotic, just like Zhou Gong's dream of a butterfly. He couldn't tell whether he was in reality or in a dream. You were seriously injured. Tianjigua sent people to encircle and suppress Ishida's family. Ishida's family was about to be destroyed, so I came out to help Ishida's family out of the siege. Ishida Xinkai pouted, finally getting back to the topic, and said to Ishida Sorakari in front of him without haste, "Help the Ishida family out? Could it be that your heroic soul has been taking care of the Ishida family?" Ishida Sorakari is not an idiot, and remembering that the old man from home has been dead for decades, he immediately looked at the old man in front of him in surprise and asked, "That's right. When I founded the Ishida family, counting the retainers and servants, the samurai ninjas, the Ishida family had a population of more than 1,000 during the prosperous period. It has only been 30 years since you handed over the Ishida family, but it has fallen to this point." Nodding his head, Ishida Xinkai didn't forget to give Ishida Sora a look as he spoke, and his words became angry again as he spoke. I wait for the younger generation to be ashamed of the ancestors." Facing Ishida Shinkai's reprimand, Ishida Sakari was also full of embarrassment. Speaking of it, Ishida Konkari is also wronged. He has been immersed in the way of tolerance and never thought of being the head of the Ishida family. Now that the Ishida family has no leader, he was elected. In fact, he has only been the head of the family for 2 months. It is indeed a grievance for him to let the Ishida family go down. However, he did not dare to refute. After all, the deeds of the ancestor of the Ishida family in front of him were taught to every generation of the Ishida family like a textbook, and he even witnessed the prosperity of the Ishida family under the management of Ishida Xinkai when he was a child. As a descendant of the Ishida family, of course I feel ashamed when I think of the current appearance of the Ishida family. Seeing Ishida Sora's face flushed with embarrassment, Ishida Xinkai didn't care about it anymore. "Tell me, what's going on with you? Anyway, you're a Jōnin, and everyone in this country of fields should be able to seriously injure you like this." Staring at Ishida Sora, Ishida Xinkai asked with a frown. Although he already has some guesses, he still needs to confirm from Ishida Sorakari himself. Ishida Sakari, who was still ashamed and speechless at first, turned ugly when he heard Ishida Shinkai's question. With the strength of the grandson, he can naturally be called the top in this Tianji country, but the person who attacked the grandson is not from the Tianji country. Ishida Sorakari clenched his fists, took a deep breath, then lowered his head and said solemnly. Ishida Xinkai could see that Ishida Sokari's body was trembling when he spoke, as if he was suppressing a deep unwillingness in his heart. Looking at the state of Ishida Sorikari, Ishida Xinkai knew that this kid had a knot in his heart. If he couldn't find and defeat him, he would definitely remember it for a lifetime. If it is an ordinary person, maybe it can only be like this, but Ishida Xinkai is already the ancestor of the Ishida family at this moment, and there are still some memories about the ninja world, and things that are hopeless for others are not worth mentioning to him. The level of belief in my ancestor is still too low among the family members. In order to increase the level of belief, in addition to changing the fate of Ishida Meimong, we must also start with the current patriarch. Ishida Xinkai looked at the current head of the Ishida family in front of him, thinking silently. The person who attacked you, do you remember any characteristics? After a pause, Ishida Xinkai continued to ask Ishida Sora. Characteristics? That person is wearing a black cloak, a blue combat uniform, and a white mask, by the way. I guess that person must be from a certain organization. Hearing Tende's Shinkai's question, Ishida Sorikari immediately thought about it, paused every sentence, and suddenly raised his head again and said seriously, Black cloak, white mask? Hearing this, Ishida Shinkai's gaze froze. As a white cat face mask appeared in Ishida Shinkai's mind, the memories buried in his heart were quickly unearthed. This mask is very unfamiliar to Ishida Sakari, but Ishida Xinkai knows where the person behind the mask comes from. As Ishida Sakari guessed, there is indeed an organization behind the masked person, called Umbu. Do you know what period the 5 major countries are in? Taking a deep breath, Ishida Shinkai's face was a little dignified. Although he already had some guesses, he was still taken aback. He didn't expect Konoha's tentacles to reach his Ishida's house. What period? 10 years ago, the land of fire and the land of thunder, the land of earth and the land of water fought successively. All the shadows of the second generation in the major ninja villages of the 4 countries were killed. Second Hokage and Second Raikage were attacked by the Golden Horn brothers dead. The First World War was not completely over at that time. Konoha, the country of fire, is now governed by Sarutobi Hiruzen as 3rd Hokage. I don't know much about the other countries. Hearing Ishida Shinkai's inquiry, Ishida Sakari didn't hide anything, and quickly told all the information he knew. Hearing this, Ishida Xinkai, who has been bored in the ancestral hall for 30 years, has truly understood the current situation of the ninja world. At the same time, he finally understood what Konoha was thinking. That old fox from 3rd generation will never allow Konoha and the land of fire to be threatened at all. I am afraid that not only the Ishida family, but also all the ninja families and villages in the surrounding countries will suffer. Ishida Shinkai's eyes sparkled, and his mind gradually understood that although he appeared to be very old on the surface, after his death he got rid of the age restriction, and even his memory and thoughts were as active as when he was young. Looking at Ishida Sorikari in front of him, Ishida Shinkai's face suddenly changed. System, how do I use the 10% off random lottery times *1 I received from the novice gift package? Ishida Xinkai thought inwardly. Ding. Use 10% off the number of random lottery draws *1. Do you want to consume 1 point of divine power for lottery draw now? Yes. Nodding his head, Ishida Xinkai thought inwardly. Ding. Use a 10% discount lottery ticket and consume 1 point of divine power to draw a talent, which can grant blood succession limit, Sharingan, to the clansmen. Sharingan? Ishida Xinkai was taken aback for a moment, but he didn't expect to directly draw Sharingan, one of the 3 major pupil techniques in the Hokage world. Ding. I found that you can advance to pupil art. You can spend 10 points of divine power to upgrade Sharingan to 3 Tomo Sharingan, consume 20 points of divine power to upgrade Sharingan to Mangekyo Sharingan, and consume 30 points of divine power to upgrade Sharingan to Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Before Ishida Xinkai could speak, the Ancestor system continued to sound prompts in Ishida Shinkai's mind, making Ishida Xinkai almost jump up. Hiss. Taking a deep breath, Ishida Xinkai tried to calm himself down, and then set his sights on Ishida Sora. It's cheap for you, kid. Upgrade to Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. 7. Soon, the sky was getting brighter, and except for Ishida Meimong and Ishida Sakari, everyone in Ishida's family stayed up all night. Ishida Sakari, who had fully recovered from his injuries, opened his eyes in a daze, then quickly sat up from the bed, and then turned his eyes to glance at the decoration in the room. Ishida Sakari's eyes were full of doubts. This is my room. So, have I been dreaming before? I actually dreamed about Grandpa. Maybe it's because I've just become the head of the house and I'm under too much pressure. Shaking his head, Ishida Sakari said to himself. As he spoke, Ishida Sorikari suddenly wrinkled his nose, and he smelled a strong smell of medicine in the air. Am I really hurt? Stunned for a moment, Ishida Sorikari checked his body quickly, but found no signs of injury, which made him regard the scene in his hand as a dream. What did you say that gave me an eternal Mangekyo Sharingan? Really? Although I don't know what the eternal Mangekyo is, but the Sharingan is the unique pupil technique of the Konoha Uchiha clan. How could I have it? How could I have it? Believe me, it really is a dream. Taking a deep breath and muttering again, Ishida Sorikari got up from the bed. For him, Ishida Xinkai was already dead, and dreaming about the other party itself was a very strange thing. It is estimated that the only way to see the deceased ancestor is in a dream. Pursing his lips, Ishida Sakari felt himself relaxed at the moment, as if he hadn't felt this way for a long time. Squeak. At this time, the door of Ishida Sorikari's room was pushed open, and a member of the Ishida family came in, wearing a bloodline and a cuff with the Ishida family crest embroidered with a lisianthus flower. As soon as the other party entered, Ishida Sorikari frowned immediately, and he felt a strong smell of blood from the other party. Friend, what's the matter with you? Why don't you know how to change your clothes with bloodline on your body? Looking at the person at the door, Ishida Sorikari frowned and asked in a deep voice. After hearing Ishida Sorikari's reprimand, Ishida's friends who had just entered the door were obviously taken aback and quickly looked at Ishida Sorikari. I saw that the eyes of Ishida's friends quickly changed from shock to surprise, followed by disbelief. Father, you are awake. Ishida's friend looked at Ishida Sora, staring, and asked in disbelief. What's going on? Of course I'm awake. Ishida Sorikari continued to speak in a deep voice, but looking at the state of Ishida's friend, he also felt a little puzzled in his heart. Great, father. You have been in a coma for more than a month, and you finally woke up. I will go and tell everyone. Seeing that Ishida Sora had really woken up, Ishida's friend immediately yelled, and ran out immediately without waiting for Ishida Sora to say anything more. Not long after, all the members of the Ishida family, including the retainers and servants, poured into the small house of the head of the family. Even Ishida Meimong, who also just woke up, was carried in directly. Patriarch, you are finally awake. Ishida's family is saved. Looking at the benefactor above, Ishida Yuto came over and knelt down on one knee, shouting at Ishida Sorikari with excitement. And everyone else looked at Ishida Sora with great excitement. They had just experienced the catastrophe, and they never expected that even Ishida Sora would wake up the next day. Looking ahead, all the clansmen and retainers with wounds on their bodies, Ishida Sorikari looked shocked. Could it be that what the old man said in the dream is true? Ishida Sora was moved, and immediately remembered what Ishida Xinkai said to him in the dream. You said I was in a coma for a long time? What happened? Thinking of Ishida Xinkai in the dream, Ishida Sorikari's heart trembled a little, and he couldn't help but excitedly asked Ishida Yuto in front of him. Ishida Youngdu glanced at Ishida Sorikari worriedly. He was really afraid that the newly awakened patriarch would faint, but he quickly told what happened in Ishida's house recently, including last night. Invasion. It's actually true. Listening to Ishida Yuto's answer, Ishida Sakari stood up immediately with his eyes widened, and even cried out excitedly. Seeing that Ishida Konkari became so excited suddenly, everyone was taken aback, and Ishida Yuto quickly said, Patriarch, you just woke up. Please don't get excited. Hearing Ishida Yuto's reminder, Ishida Sakari also reacted, but the horror on his face still did not fade away. Immediately afterwards, Ishida Sorikari set his sights on Ishida Meimong, who was still in a state of confusion. Ishida Meimong also just woke up. He didn't even know what happened yesterday. When he woke up this morning, everyone said that he saved the entire Ishida family, and that he was a genius who had endured for more than 10 years. This made him look inexplicable. He remembered that he was in a coma yesterday, but a man who claimed to be an ancestor pointed and whispered in his ear. Hearing Ishida Youngdu mention that Ishida Meimong suddenly released a super-large A-level ninjutsu yesterday, his expression froze. He knew very well that Ishida's family did not have any cards or cards. Others leave and rest first. Meimong, you stay. I have something to tell you. Taking a deep breath, Ishida Sorikari guessed that Ishida Meimong must have also dreamed about the old man of Ishida's family, but he didn't want too many people to know, so he immediately said to everyone. A group of people glanced at each other without hesitation. After all, Ishida Sakari and Ishida Meimong are the two strongest members of the family now, and no one dares to disobey them. They all retreated one after another. Meimong, do you remember what happened yesterday? I mean, did you dream about anyone? Ishida Sorikari took a deep breath, fixed his eyes on Ishida Meimong, and asked nervously. This, Ishida Maimong froze for a moment, then frowned and thought carefully. I seem to have dreamed of an old man who looks very much like the ancestor on the portrait of the ancestral hall. He said he cured me and gave me a chance. I don't remember it after that, but now I feel that the body is full of power, and there is a huge chakra with strong vitality flowing in the body. Could it be said the dream is real? After thinking for a while, Ishida Maimong said with some uncertainty, but then Ishida Maimong's eyes widened, and he looked at Ishida Sora in disbelief. Ishida Sorakari didn't speak, but Ishida Maimong noticed that his eyes were burning with excitement. At the same time, Ishida Xinkai received a reminder here. The belief status of the clansman Ishida Maimong has been improved to fanatical worship, generates 1 point of incense per day. Clanman Ishida Xinkai's belief status has been improved to fanatical worship, generates 1 point of incense per day. 8. Ishida Sakari and Ishida Maimong got together in the room, becoming more and more sure that all of this had something to do with their ancestors. Patriarch, what should we do? Are we going to thank the old man? Ishida Maimong raised his head and looked at Ishida Xinkai. Although both of them are Jōnin now, and he also has a chakra similar to the legendary blood succession limit, the head of the family is Ishida Xinkai after all, and Ishida Xinkai is still his uncle. So he is still more willing to listen to the uncle's opinion. Whether it's true or not, the ninja family created by the old man is almost wiped out in our hands. We must pay homage to his old man. You go and inform other people to prepare. Ishida Sorakari thought for a while, and then said with a solemn expression. Although he had already determined the answer in his heart, he still couldn't believe it. The founder of the Ishida family, Ishida Xinkai, was obviously dead. I don't understand how my grandfather helped them. Yes. Ishida Maimong did not hesitate, and immediately walked out in response. He suddenly lost consciousness during the battle, and woke up to become a Jōnin. The old man's shadow. Thinking of this, Ishida Maimong shuddered, and the joy of becoming a Jōnin was dissipated a lot. After all, for them, death turned into a ghost, turned into a god, and became the legendary existence. Being able to be immortal, doesn't that mean that ghosts and gods really exist? The ability to create Jōnin out of thin air and heal serious injuries in an instant is probably only the legendary ghosts and gods can do it. Taking a deep breath, Ishida Maimong, who already knew what happened to him last night, thought to himself. Seeing Ishida Maimong leave, Ishida Sakari also hurriedly came to the mirror and looked at his eyes carefully. I was lucky enough to see the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan. They clearly have 1 tomo or 3 tomo. Why is mine different from theirs? I don't even have 1 tomo. Could it be because of the lower-level Sharingan? Ishida Sorakari looked at his own eyes in the mirror, and his mouth was full of doubts. If Ishida Xinkai knew that at this moment Ishida Kongsho regarded the eternal Mangekyo bestowed by him as an eye that was not even as good as 3 or even 1 goat, he would probably vomit blood in anger. But at this moment, he is carefully looking at the information of Ishida Maimong and Ishida Karari who have changed their belief status. System, come out. What is this state of belief? How can it be improved? The faith status of Ishida Sakari and Ishida Xinkai has improved, and they have entered the level of fanatical worship. The value of incense provided every day has also changed from 0.01 to 1 point, which can be said to be hundreds of times that of before. This made Ishida Xinkai, who had been worrying about whether he would have to save up for decades before he could be as extravagant as yesterday, immediately cheered up. The state of belief is the presentation of the status of the ancestor spirit in the minds of the family population. Only those under the management of the Ishida family will have the state of belief, and there are 5 states of belief in total. Enshrined as a god, generates 100 points of incense every day. 5 body projection, generates 30 points of incense every day. Fanatical worship, generates 1 point of incense per day. Worship, generates 0.3 incense points per day. Superficial belief, 0.01 points of incense value is generated every day. The clansman with the blood of the ancestral spirit will rely on the ancestral system. After death, the soul will be pulled into the space of the ancestral spirit. After the state of belief in the ancestral spirit reaches the 5-body surrender, the soul can be transformed by the ancestral spirit into an absolutely loyal envoy. Spread spiritual power. For Ishida Xinkai's inquiry, the ancestor system was also very cooperative and gave an answer. Even gave Ishida Xinkai an extra tip at the end. Spiritual envoy? How does it sound? By the way, there seemed to be such an item in the information column back then. I don't know what it is useful for. Hearing the prompt from the system, Ishida Xinkai was taken aback for a moment, then said thoughtfully, but then shook his head. It's too far to think about it now. After so many years, there are only 2 fanatics who want to. How long will it take to reach the 5-body caste? Ishida Xinkai said with some frustration. At this moment, a system mechanical reminder appeared in Ishida Shinkai's mind again. The belief status of the clansman Ishida Meimong has been improved to 5-body throwing the ground, generates 30 points of incense every day. At this moment, Ishida Meimong became even more worshipful of his ancestors because of some guesses in his heart. After all, he was different from Ishida Sora. He really changed from Jinin to Jōnin, and the powerful power not only gave him unimaginable confidence, even the attitude of the rest of Ishida's family has undergone a 180-degree change, which made him feel more and more in awe of the ancestor who appeared in the dream. Ishida Xinkai, who was shaking his head and sighing, suddenly became stiff, his eyes widened, and he stared at the front in astonishment. But his consciousness had already sunk into his mind, reviewing the personal panel of the tribe member Ishida Meimong over and over again. Name, Ishida Meimong. Status, clan family member, Ishida family, S**X, male age, 24 years old. Bloodline boundary, wood style chakra amount, 108, Jōnin, belief status, 5-body prostration, 30 incense points are provided every day. Vital status, healthy. Skills, elementary taijutsu, elementary body replacement technique, elementary transformation technique, elementary clone technique, wood style chakra extraction. Really? After such a dazzling effort, there actually appeared a person who threw himself at me. Taking another sure look at Ishida Meimong's information panel, Ishida Xinkai felt as if she was about to suffocate with excitement. Not to mention that he can be transformed into a spirit messenger after death. Just the daily incense value, which is nearly 30 times that of the previous state, makes Ishida Xinkai jump up excitedly. At this moment, the value of incense that Ishida Meimong offers every day alone is probably equivalent to the offering of the whole family for more than half a month before the system was opened. 9. It has to be said that Ishida Meimong's belief status has improved again, which really encouraged Ishida Xinkai a lot. If there are hundreds of people who believe in me and reach the state of 5-body throwing, then I will be able to need 6 paths directly if I descend in the body of the ancestral spirit. Thinking of the first and most direct way of coming, Ishida Xinkai said with some expectation, although he doesn't know what the body of the ancestral spirit is, he has an intuition, and it will definitely not be worse than the Sage of 6 Paths with only 1 soul state. Not even worse than Otsutsuki Kagaya. Not long after, Ishida Konkari brought the members of the Ishida family to the Ishida family ancestral hall. In this regard, Ishida Xinkai was not surprised. She had publicly revealed her identity to the 2 of them. It would be no wonder if they dared not come. Just after entering the ancestral hall, Ishida Sakari and Ishida Meimong felt a sense of pressure. A strange aura filled the hearts of the 2 of them, as if there was a giant with a height of 1,000,000 feet standing in front of the shrine in front of them. Ishida Sorkari seems to have returned to the time when he faced the ancestors of the Ishida family when he was a child, and Ishida Meimong, who has reached the level of faith, seems to feel that there is a certain connection between himself and the shrine above. The 2 glanced at each other, and both saw horror in each other's eyes. Ishida Meimong paid more and more reverence to the spiritual tablet in the shrine above. Others did not have the experience of the 2, but they all had a sense of stability and peace when entering the ancestral hall, as if the ancestors were really watching Ishida's house from above. And the 2 babies who were still in their infancy were surprisingly not crying and were staring at the shrine above with their curious eyes wide open. There are a few half-grown children who are holding the sleeves of the adults of the Ishida family next to them, and are also curiously looking around. The Ishida Xinkai 4th-generation descendants of the Ishida family, the Ishida family's misfortune caused more than half of the younger generation to be killed or injured. It can be said that in the entire Ishida family, except for the 3 members of the Ishida Sakari family and Ishida Meimong, there are also 2 15 or 16-year-old 3rd generation except for the girls. The others are all orphans and widows. Ding. It is found that the descendants of the ancestors who are in their infancy have poor aptitude, and they can use the power of the gods to improve their aptitude. Hearing the reminder from the ancestral spirit system appear again, Ishida Xinkai also set his sights on the children of the Ishida family curiously. He has never seen these children, but he can know through the blood that these are his descendants. In addition to directly improving the strength, can you also improve the aptitude of my juniors? Ishida Xinkai was a little curious and asked the system in his heart. Ancestral spirits can consume 1 point of divine power to raise the lower limit of the aptitude of clansmen no older than 5 to the Jōnin level. Here, as long as they practice normally, the minimum can reach Jōnin. It can consume 200 points of divine power to directly give birth to the capital of 6 paths genius. 1 point for a Jōnin qualification? Then I now have 29 points of divine power. If I directly increase it, can I directly create 29 strong people who can at least grow to the Jōnin level in the future? TSK. This is already comparable to half a big country the strength of Ninja Village, right? Ishida Xinkai was surprised when he heard it, and thought that the highest estimate of the entire Konoha Jōnin would be no more than 100, so he couldn't help but be moved. As for the talented juniors of 6 paths, they are not in the scope of Ishida Xinkai's current consideration at all. However, Ishida's family currently has a limited number of 4th-generation juniors. Even if he wants to use up all 29 points of divine power at once, he has no chance. Ishida Xinkai counted, and there were exactly 10 people under the age of 5. System, I want to upgrade the qualifications of all 10 juniors. Ishida Xinkai thought to himself. Ding. Consume 10 points of divine power to increase Jōnin-level talent tribe *10. As Ishida Xinkai's order fell, the system's prompt sound immediately sounded in his mind. The eyes of Ishida Xinkai's junior, who was still in a state of ignorance, quickly became clear, and he became more and more curious when he looked around, and his perception and understanding of everything around him became more thorough. Here, Ishida Sora and Ishida Meimin represent 2 generations of leaders of the Ishida family who have knelt on their knees. The others followed closely and knelt down, and even those juniors who were only 3 or 4 years old knelt on the ground in a neat manner with their hands on the ground. Ancestors, thank you for your blessings. Ishida's family survived the catastrophe. As the head of the house, Ishida Sorikari thought about the lesson Ishida Xinkai had in his dream last night, and said with a face of shame. He knew very well that his Ishida family would have been gone yesterday if it hadn't been for the Ancestor's apparition. Others besides Ishida Meimong didn't know the reason, they just thought it was just an ordinary worship. After all, Ishida's family had just suffered a catastrophe, so worship should be done. Ishida Xinkai sat on the altar, looking down with a little dissatisfaction. They are all taken care of by the old man. Meimong knows how to kneel down and bow down. Yu Kongsho is my grandson anyway. Why don't you know how to respect me? Ishida Meimong's belief status improved, and Ishida Xinkai began to look down on Ishida Sakari again, and couldn't help humming. Because of Ishida Xinkai's interference, a group of juniors looked up at the shrine above with their clear eyes, and were a little surprised. They are different from those adults whose minds have been solidified. They think of what happened yesterday, and immediately guess something when their minds are active. Everyone thought that it was probably arranged by the Ancestor during his lifetime, and each of them became more respectful to the Ancestor. Clanman Ishida Tai's belief status has been improved to worship. 0.3 points of incense are generated every day. Clanman Ishida Maya's belief status has been increased to worship. 0.3 incense points are generated every day. Clanman Ishida's belief status has been improved to worship. Generates 0.3 points of incense per day. 10. The sudden increase in faith status caught Ishida Xinkai a little off guard. When he checked the information, he found that it was all juniors who had just upgraded their aptitude. Except for the 2 babies who were still in a state of ignorance, the other children all raised their faith status, which immediately surprised Ishida Xinkai. Sometimes, children know better than adults how to honor the dead. Grinning, Ishida Xinkai didn't expect that there would be unexpected gains. Children who are 3 or 4 years old, or even 2 years old, have not yet fully accepted some things in reality, and they do not have a solid understanding of life and death, so even if Ishida Xinkai suddenly stands in front of them, they will only feel novelty. Adults, we don't know at the moment that the children in their own family are so talented that they begin to actively understand external things. If I remember correctly, Uchiha's genius Itachi was taught the cruelty of the battlefield when he was just over a year old. Grinning again, Ishida Xinkai said with some sighs. During the war, it is definitely the time when children grow the fastest. Then take advantage of the upcoming war and let the power of the Ishida family spread all over the world. At that time, the power of the gods enshrined every day will be enough for me to come down and run around the world as the ancestor spirit itself. Ishida Xinkai thought so. After all, I have lived in this world all my life. It would be a lie to say that Ishida Xinkai has no ambitions, but because he didn't have any cheats during his lifetime, and his qualifications are mediocre. If it weren't for his advanced knowledge as a time traveler, I am afraid it would be impossible to create the Ishida family. Although he is dead now, with the appearance of cheat, the historical plot of the ninja world has gradually merged with the memory in his mind, which revived his ambition buried deep in his heart. Here, Ishida Xinkai has also begun to kowtow with his clansmen, and hints continued to appear in Ishida Xinkai's mind. Ding. Received incense sacrifice, incense value plus 100. Currently has 32 points of incense. Ding. Received incense sacrifice, incense value plus 1. Currently has incense value 33. Ding. Received incense sacrifice, incense value plus 3. Currently has incense value 36. Ding. Received incense sacrifice, incense value plus 1. Currently has incense value 65. The members of the Ishida family kept prostrating, which made the value of Ishida Xinkai's incense continue to rise. And Ishida Xinkai also found that every time the incense is sacrificed, according to the status of each person's offering, he will also get a different incense value, which is roughly the data of *100 of the incense offered by each person every day. At the same time, during the 30 years after his death, his son would worship him every day for more than 10 years. Sacrifice will no longer provide incense value. Otherwise, with the worship frequency of Ishida Xinkai's son, he would have already started cheating. After a group of people worshipped, Ishida Xinkai did not rush to let people disperse, but stepped forward, facing the tribe. His face became extremely serious. My Ishida family has always respected our ancestors. Previously, the Ishida family was unable to light incense and candles for our ancestors due to many disasters. Now we are protecting our ancestors from disasters. From today onwards, I decided to build a shrine for our ancestors, regardless of the Ishida clan branch, house, or retainers and servants. As long as they are members of my Ishida family, as long as there is a shrine, they must pay homage to their ancestors every day. Ishida Sorikari said in a low voice directly towards the crowd. What? Build a shrine? Daily worship? Hearing Ishida Sorikari's words, a group of Ishida's family members were taken aback. However, immediately after that, everyone in the Ishida family became extremely excited, and the heartbeats of the Ishida family's retainers and servants who were guarding outside also accelerated. Establishing a shrine for the ancestors represents glory and merit, and it also represents the powerful family behind the shrine. They know that the Ishida family will finally show their strength against the Tanakuni who has been persecuting the Ishida family. What the hell, a shrine? Chow, this kid has something. Why didn't I think of it? Hearing Ishida Sorikari's decision, Ishida Xinkai was also taken aback, but immediately became excited. He originally thought that this kind of sacrifice would only happen once a year during festivals, but he didn't expect his grandson to play so big that he would worship every day. Immediately afterwards, Ishida Sorikari looked at the faith status of his clansmen and retainers and servants, and carefully calculated. According to this posture, with the big head of Maimong, I should be able to earn 100, 1,000, 10,000, 10,000, and 167 per month. 30 years of accumulation. Looking at the data he had calculated, Ishida Xinkai was almost excited, which means that he can squander another 100 points of divine power every month. The majority of them belong to Maimong alone. He alone can provide more than 9,000 yuan a month, which is really remarkable. Ishida Xinkai kept nodding. Her eyes were full of fire. But soon, Ishida Xinkai calmed down. 100 points of divine power seems like a lot, even more than what he has accumulated over the past 30 years, but he is very clear that it is still not enough for him. Not to mention other things, just coming by yourself is completely unsupportable, let alone dragging the body of the ancestral spirit around. Perhaps some Jōnin or Jōnin-level geniuses can be created for the family. As for Six Paths talents, Ishida Xinkai doesn't think about them at all. The longer it takes, even if I create a stack of Six Paths resources, if I don't have the ability to protect them, I will probably be caught and sliced if I don't grow up. Having lived in this world all his life, Ishida Xinkai knows how dangerous this world is. But no matter what, I'm considered rich, and the family has not yet fully developed. If there are really 1,800 people who are devoted to the ground and even respect gods, even if it is Six Paths himself, my ancestor the spirit is not afraid. After a pause, Ishida Xinkai grinned again. He still thought too much. Before he had enough strength, he would not dare to challenge Six Paths. 11. Soon, a week passed. The capital city of the land country, the daimyo mansion, it's wrong. His Ishida's family is really against the heavens, and he dares to resist. Damn it. Damn it. The daimyo's mansion of Tianjigua, which had been relatively quiet all the time, was already in a state of frenzy at this moment, and there were continuous roars. The attached samurai watched Tanakuni daimyo, who was smashing wildly in the house one by one carefully. "And you trash," a samurai army composed of 1,000 people and led by a first-class samurai from the Iron Kingdom. "Did you come back in such a state of embarrassment?" Perhaps feeling that it was not enough for him to vent alone, Daimyo Tanakuni turned his slightly bloated body, pointed at the samurai leader Kaido Mikawa, who had escaped from Ishida's house, and asked angrily. Mikawa Kaido naturally knew that he was a deserter, and he should have committed seppuku if he failed the mission, but if he had had the determination, he would not have run away when facing the Ishida family. "It's Jōnin. There is another Jōnin in the Ishida family. In addition to the head of the Ishida family, there is another Jōnin hidden. That Jōnin burned more than 200 of our warriors to death with a single ninjutsu. Sanha Kaido obviously hasn't recovered from the Super A-level ninjutsu released by Ishida Xinkai at the time when Ishida Meimong was released. He was still a little scared when the raging flames sounded at that time. If he was closer to the gate of Ishida's house at that time, I'm afraid they were all burned to ashes together." "Jōnin?" Hearing Mikawa Kaido's report, the furious Tanakuni daimyo also froze. Reaching Jōnin is no longer something ordinary troops can deal with. Leaving aside those terrifying transcendent A-level or even S-level ninjutsu, Jōnin alone wants to assassinate him, the daimyo of the land country, and it is difficult for the samurai in the city to stop him. "Are you sure? There's another Jōnin in Ishida's house?" Taking a deep breath, Tanakuni daimyo quickly calmed down and asked Mikawa Kaido seriously. He never made it to the point where there would be two Jōnins in the Ishida family. If he had known this, he would never have dared to send troops to the Ishida family. Yes, it's the younger generation of the Ishida family, who has been called the Ishida Meimong, who can't be a ninja. After all, the Ishida family is one of the most famous ninja clans in Tanakuni. Even if it declines, the core characters in it are all well known by Tanakuni officials. Ishida Meimong? Isn't that guy unable to become a ninja? How could he be a Jōnin? It's not your excuse, is it? Hearing Ishida Meimong's name, Nada no Kuni daimyo's expression tightened immediately, and then he asked suspiciously. "Kaido doesn't dare. It's definitely Ishida Meimong." Mikawa Kaido shuddered and said hastily. Although he was outside the Ishida family's mansion at the time, in order to prevent the Ishida family from escaping, he was always paying attention to the movement inside. When Ishida Meimong suddenly stood up and his body recovered instantly, he could see clearly. "Immediately call the army. Come, prepare a paper and pen letter for me, and notify the Flying Foot Ninja to pick it up." Seeing Mikawa Kaido, Tanakuni daimyo's expression became more serious, and he quickly returned to the front of the case after speaking. Within a week, Ishida's house, which was mostly destroyed by the fire dragon flame technique released by Ishida Xinkai, was also repaired. Not only that, in the center of Ishida's house, there is a huge square building supported by 4 stone pillars with a diameter of half a meter, and there are wooden doors that can be opened on all sides. Incense breath. If it weren't for the sign of Ishida Prefecture hanging outside Ishida's house, I'm afraid it would be regarded as a temple by people who don't know it. I don't know if it's because I'm already dead, but in the strong scent of incense, although the value of the incense doesn't increase, the incense surrounding it keeps giving Ishida Xinkai a very comfortable feeling. The news that the Ishida family now has 2 Jōnins has spread, and some families in Tanakuni who survived the persecution have also come to vote. In their view, they have a common enemy with the Ishida family. But Ishida Konkari is not a fool, and naturally he will not let people be used as gunmen. As long as you join my Ishida family and become my Ishida family servants, I, the Ishida family, can protect you, and even take you to revenge against Tianjigwa. Ishida Sorikari is currently in the study of the head of Ishida's house, and in front of him, there are 3 people standing obediently. Ishida Xinkai sat on the chair next to her, and looked at the 3 people in front of her. Although she didn't know these 3 people, she recognized their family crests. "Hey, if you hadn't opposed me and killed the 3 special Jōnin families, Kami, Nakatani, and Chimori, I'm afraid you wouldn't have fallen to this point, and now you're going to be killed by my grandson, forced to become servants." Ishida Xinkai could see that the 3 patriarchs were only Chunin's strength. Perhaps because of this, Tianjigwa was not in such a hurry to deal with them. Hearing Ishida Sorikari's words, the 3 of them obviously didn't expect it, and their expressions immediately sank. "Patriarch Ishida, are you kidding me? To tell you the truth, now that the 5 major powers are encircling and suppressing the uncontrollable forces in neighboring countries, do you really think that our enemy is just the country of Tian?" With the intervention of Konoha, the country of fire, even if Ishida's family has 2 Jonins, and it will definitely not be easy. One of them looked down and said to Ishida Sorikari above that this person had experienced the battle between the land of fire and the land of thunder. So when he talked about the 5 great nations and Konoha, his eyes were full of fear. Konoha, the country of fire? Huh. So what? Let me just say, with the Ishida family, you can only surrender and want to form an alliance. You are not qualified. Hearing that person's words, Ishida Sorikari's face suddenly sank. He also guessed that the person who attacked him at that time was probably from the Fire Kingdom. The Ishida family was almost wiped out by the other party. He thought that the Ishida family might have ancestors to take care of him, and even his every move was under the watchful eyes of his ancestors, so naturally he would not beg for mercy. Okay, good. As expected of my grandson, Ishida Xinkai next to him, his eyes lit up when he heard Ishida Sorikari's words, and immediately shouted with his thumb up. 12. In the end, the 3 families did not agree to be Ishida Sorikari's going. Although servants are not slaves, they need absolute allegiance, which is no different from being a domestic servant in a sense. It is more uncomfortable than killing them to let these families who were able to sit with the Ishida family at the same time become servants of the Ishida family now. The 3 major families are still willing to support them, but it doesn't mean that all the families in the Tianji Kingdom are the same. Like those small clans that have been nearly exterminated, they always think about revenge, especially those ninjas who are already alone. In order to prove that they have the same enemy as the Ishida family, they even prostrated themselves at the shrine of Ishida Xinkai on the spot. Angels are different from ancestral halls. Outsiders are not allowed to worship in ancestral halls, but shrines are more like temples. What they want is more people to visit, and even as many people as possible. What Ishida Xinkai taught the clansmen at the beginning was how to develop steadily. After all, he had no cheats at the time, and relied on the prestige he had built. Of course, it is better to ask future generations to be safe. But it's different now. My cheat has finally started, and I even became the grandfather behind the entire Ishida family. Ishida Konkari, who only knows about cultivation and population development, just met Ishida Shinkai's appetite. For him, the more people the Ishida family controls and the more people come to worship him, the more incense points he can get. Such a cycle. Of course, Ishida Xinkai is so happy. Day by day, everyone in Tanakuni already knew that Tanakuni sent troops to wipe out the Ishida family, but they were repulsed instead. And half a month later, there was no movement from Tianjigua, which made the people of Tianjigua even more curious about the Ishida family. There are even more and more ninja survivors from Tianji country coming to join the Ishida family. In half a month, the number of domestic servants in the Ishida Xinkai clan has changed from 8 after the war to hundreds of people today, including samurai, ninjas, and ordinary people. But they all have one thing in common, that is, their high-level family members were attacked for no reason, either dead or injured, and the daimyo of the country of Tana took the opportunity to send troops to wipe them out. Although they don't know who the person who attacked the strong man of their family is, this account is destined to be counted on the head of Tianjigua daimyo. As more and more people join in, the Ishida family's limelight is unmatched in this country for a while, and even the deeds of the Ishida family's creation of the Ishida family by Ishida Xinkai decades ago have been picked up. In order to make friends with the Ishida family who may compete with the Tanakuni daimyo chamber in the future, some people from Tanakuni specially came to visit the shrine of Ishida Xinkai. It's a pity, if so many people surrender to the Ishida family, it will also be a considerable income from incense. Sighing, Ishida Xinkai looked at the celebrities of all ethnic groups who came to worship outside, and Ishida Xinkai said with some regret, "No, tell my grandson later, don't just think about improving your own strength. The scope of the family's control will also expand." Shaking his head, Ishida Xinkai continued, "Now his incense value has accumulated more than 3,000 points, plus the remaining 19 points of divine power from the last time he raised the aptitude of the little guys in the clan. He can use the divine power. The force reached 53 points. But this is far from enough in Ishida Shinkai's opinion. At the same time, Konoha, the country of fire, also received a letter from Tanakuni. Master Danzo, there are rebels in Tanakuni daimyo's country, so he issued an S-level mission, requesting the village to send ninjas to suppress them. A man wearing a white painted face mask, a blue-gray combat uniform, and a black cloak appeared in a dimly lit room, knelt down on one knee, and said to the man kneeling on the futon in front of him. Hearing the figure's report, Danzo, who was closing his eyes and concentrating, opened his eyes instantly, and his eyes were like a wolf, showing a fierce light. Taian's Higuo? S-level mission? Haven't the poisonous insects been cleaned up? Danzo narrowed his eyes slightly and asked calmly towards the front. According to the information we have collected, almost all the strong men above Chunin in Tianji country have been solved. The letter said that they were members of the Ishida family in Tianji country. Our people seriously injured Jōnin of this family and did not confirm his death. The tone of the masked ninja remained the same. Even under Danzo's terrifying eyes, he remained calm. We can't make any more moves now. Promise them, and then post this task to the underground gold exchange, and I will tell third Hokage the rest. Shimura Danzo glanced at the ninja again, then spoke slowly, then got up and left without saying another word. The Underground Money Exchange Office is a transfer organization responsible for receiving tasks and issuing tasks to other ninjas. Regardless of the tasks and the people who receive the tasks, it can be said that dragons and snakes are mixed, and there are even tasks to assassinate the village shadows of the 5 major countries. And the ninja didn't hesitate at all about Shimura Danzo's arrangement. As soon as Shimura Danzo left, he disappeared directly in place. 2 days later, a new S-level mission appeared in the Underground Money Exchange, which immediately attracted the attention of many people. A down-and-out family in a small country is actually an S-level task, and there is a reward of 30 million taels. Who is so rich and has no place to burn it? Boss, have you seen the mission? The S-level mission is to solve a small family. There is a reward of 30 million taels. The Ishida family of Tianjigua? Hee. I've made up my mind on the 30 million taels. 13. After the Ishida family's bounty appeared in the Underground Money Exchange, it caused quite a stir. 30 million taels. If it is used to reward elite Jōnin of a big country, everyone can understand it, but the ninja family of a small country can actually offer so much money, which makes people surprised, and many people are eager to try. Those who can take on the task of changing money are basically people who lick blood at the tip of their swords, and there are even many rebels from major ninja villages. Ninja families like the Ishida family generally will not have anything to do with money changing for the rest of their lives. Intersection. So the Ishida's family still don't know that they have been hung on the reward list of the Underground Money Exchange. It was late at night, and Ishida's house was still as usual. After Ishida Xinkai continued to burn a new joss stick before going to bed, I gradually fell asleep. Ishida Xinkai sat on the top of the garden shrine, scanning the brightly lit Ishida home. Since the news that the Ishida family owns 2 Jōnins was released, the city of Sinong where the Ishida family is located seems to have regarded the Ishida family as the center. Tanaka Akira, who was originally the nephew of Tanakuni Daimyo, is hiding at home at this moment, not going out of the door, and staying away from the second gate, for fear that the Ishida family will arrest him to vent their anger. My lord, your highness Daming has sent an envoy. At the lord's mansion of Sinan City, the Lord Tian Zhoming was frightened and planned to go back to rest after eating, but was interrupted by a servant's report. Messenger, quickly bring him here. Hearing the servant's report, Tian Zhoming suddenly became energetic. As if seeing a relative, he said quickly, Yes. The servant replied, and stepped back. When he came back after a while, he was followed by a man in common clothes. My lord, I am the samurai of the daimyo mansion, Tanaka Langtai. When the visitor saw Tian Zhoming, he immediately yelled with a serious expression. It turned out to be a surnamed warrior. Come in quickly. As soon as Tian Zhoming heard that it was Tanaka's surname, he naturally didn't dare to neglect. The Tanaka family are the nobles of the Tanaka country, so it is impossible for them to be samurai who run errands. Since the samurai in front of him is named Tanaka, he must have a given surname. Being able to get the surname given by the daimyo is enough to show his status in the daimyo's heart. Mr. Lang Tai, is there any arrangement for the daimyo? After entering the door, he swung the servant back, and Tian Zhoming couldn't wait to ask the coming samurai. For so many days, he has been worried every day, and he has lost a lot of weight. Akira Tanaka also secretly hated that the daimyo should not show off if he is not capable. As a result, not only did he fail to deal with the Ishida family, he even made the Ishida family rise up, making himself a coward. The Lord sent a letter. His Royal Highness has entrusted someone to issue a reward at the Underground Money Exchange in the ninja organization. It is estimated that the gang of desperados will take action as soon as tonight. Tanaka Langtai nodded, and he also had some disdain for the idiot lord in front of him, but he didn't show it, but said without saying a word. Underground Money Exchange? Well, that's good. Now it seems that the Ishida family is still alive. Hearing the words of Tanaka Langtai, Tanaka was obviously taken aback, then remembered what the money exchange was for, nodded quickly, and said excitedly, Mr. Langtai came here in person this time. Is there anything else you want to arrange? After a pause, Tian Zhoming continued to ask, although he is an idiot, he is nothing. To send his confidant samurai to come in person, it must not be as simple as reporting a letter. His Royal Highness hopes that the Lord can gather people to wipe out all the Ishida family and people related to the Ishida family immediately after the high-level members of the Ishida family are wiped out by those ninjas who have accepted the mission. Tanaka Langtai did not hesitate and immediately continued. Akira Tanaka naturally had no objection to this and immediately got up and started recruiting people. The fear during this period has long made him hate the Ishida family. Now that he has the opportunity to destroy the Ishida family, he will naturally not procrastinate. The Underground Money Exchange is an extremely mysterious organization in the world. It existed even before the appearance of ninja villages in major countries. The One Village system unites most ninja families and wandering ninjas, but the Underground Money Exchange still exists, so no one dares to underestimate the power of this Underground Money Exchange. After all, there are mixed dragons and snakes in the Underground Money Exchange, and the intelligence system is also very complete. If a big country wants to move them, they may not be able to do anything to your high-level officials, but if you offer rewards to your domestic officials and ministers, I am afraid that no country can stand it. At the same time, outside Ishida's house, a team of 6 is approaching Ishida's house. Each of those people was a ninja, and at least they were all of Chunin's strength, and they soon came to the periphery of Ishida's house. Those ninjas were like ghosts, and the 2 samurai patrolling outside Ishida's house didn't even react, and they were directly wiped by Kanai's neck. And Ishida Xinkai, who was above the shrine with the old god, was immediately alarmed by the sudden decrease in the number of 2 servants in his message box. Then Ishida Xinkai's eyes flickered, and he quickly discovered several ninjas who had infiltrated Ishida's house. However, those ninjas moved secretly, and ordinary ninjas and samurai could not find them at all. Good boy. A bunch of Chunin dare to come to my Ishida's house and make trouble. Ishida Xinkai watched several ninjas gather in the dark looking for opportunities, but he sneered. If he would have been worried before, but that kid Ishida Sorikari had already been guarding against the sneak attack of Tianji country, so he set up traps in dark places where people rarely go, and Ishida Xinkai remembered that those people are now where there are 2 detonating symbols. Boom! The next moment, the flames shot up into the sky, and the sound of the explosion awakened everyone in Ishida's house instantly. 14. The roar of the explosion woke up the Ishida family from their sleep. Soon, the entire Ishida family entered a state of martial law. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 Jonins, Ishida Meimong and Ishida Konkari, rushed out from the inner courtyard first, followed by more than 10 Chunin and Genin and hundreds of warriors. Damn it! This Ishida's family even set up traps in their own house. A few ninjas walked out of the smoke in disgrace. The leader of them looked a bit ugly. The man's hair was tied at the temples, and there were marks on the arches of the eyebrows on both sides of the eyebrows, and there was a ninja forehead protector from the land of water hanging around his neck, but there was a deep and long scratch on it. Obviously, the other party is a traitor from the land of water. Renegades are ninjas who have defected or committed crimes from various countries. Because they hold some secrets in the village, they will be chased and killed by the village once they appear, and the Underground Money Exchange has become a paradise for those rebels and criminals. Being able to kill people and get rewards is perfect for these guys. The other ninjas have different forehead protectors, but without exception, they are all notorious rebellious ninjas in each village. But most of them are rebellious ninjas in the country of water, and 4 of them wear the same forehead protector as the leader. The explosion of the 2 detonating talismans just now did startle the rebels, but they have developed a strong sense of vigilance since they have been licking blood all the year round, so they did not cause any casualties to them. But when a few people came out, they found that they were completely surrounded. Why are there so many traitors? Seeing the forehead protectors on the 6 ninjas, the people around were stunned. There are a lot of rebellious ninjas every year, but because of the hunting of various villages, they rarely appear in front of people. Today, 6 rebellious ninjas suddenly appeared here, which really made the Ishida family a little strange. Hee, a bunch of idiots. They don't even know that your family has been offered a reward of 30 million taels. Looking at the surprised servants of the Ishida family in front of them, the leader of the rebel Kagaya-one immediately sneered and said disdainfully, "What? 30 million taels?" Listening to Kagaya-one's words, the Ishida family was taken aback again, and then looked at each other in surprise. 30 million taels. The entire Ishida family can't afford 30 million taels. Who is so rich, willing to spend 30 million taels to offer a reward to the Ishida family? A reward of 30 million? Did you plan to attack my Ishida's house after receiving the reward? Listening to the other party's words, Ishida Sora came out here. Seeing the figure of Ishida Sora, the pupils of the 6 rebels shrank, and they all felt a strong crisis from Ishida Sora. Jōnin. For a split second, the 6 of them looked at Ishida Sorikari in front of them, and their minds were alert at the same time. The bounty was as high as 30 million taels, and they also calculated that the Ishida family might have Jōnin, so they planned to sneak in quietly. They didn't expect that the other party had already set up a trap and was discovered so quickly. But those rebels don't seem to be nervous. Although they are only Chunin, their fighting skills are already extremely strong and tricky, and they have been working together for many years, and it is not that they have killed Jōnin. In their view, dealing with Jōnin, a mere small country, is difficult, but it is not difficult. After all, they are all from the ninja villages of the 5 major countries, and the ninja assessment at each stage is extremely strict. A small country like Tianjigua will be recognized as a Jōnin as long as the amount of chakra is reached. These so-called Jōnin are drawn to the big 5. Not even the special Jōnin are necessarily comparable. So the appearance of Ishida Konkari just made them excited. 30 million taels? Was it done by the daimyo prefecture of the Tanakuni? But 30 million taels is a bit small. I have 2 Jōnins in Ishida's house. Beside Ishida, Xinkai also wobbled down, listening to the other party's words, frowned, and said with some dissatisfaction. And Ishida Sora, who was next to him, thought of this for some reason, paused for a moment, and suddenly said disdainfully, "Are the 2 Jōnins of my Ishida family only worth 30 million taels?" Ishida Sorikari's words are extremely calm. Since he got the eyes bestowed by the ancestors, he found that his observation ability has become extremely powerful, and he is really like the Sharingan of the Uchiha family in the legend. He can observe the movement of other people's chakra trajectory, which made his confidence stronger than ever. What? 2 Jōnin? Hearing what Ishida Sorikari said, Kagayawan and others suddenly changed their expressions. Tianjigua has already spread all over the world. How could you, as killers, not know about it? Here, Ishida Meimong flashed out with a sneer. At the moment, the most inflated mentality of the Ishida family is Ishida Meimong, who is transformed from a waste who cannot become a ninja into a Jōnin, and even gained the respect of the entire Ishida family. This is what Ishida Meimong never imagined after knowing that he cannot become a ninja past. Looking at the figure of Ishida Meimong, the pupils of the several murderers shrank. Just now, Ishida Meimong's speed has indeed surpassed most of the Chunins. What a young Jōnin. You can be called a genius even in the land of water. Looking at Ishida Meimong, Kagaya thought to himself, they still have the confidence to deal with a small country Jōnin. But if there are 2, even a small country Jōnin, it also made him feel a panic. Unfortunately, they are all just Chunin, not qualified to let me use the Sharingan bestowed by the old man. Meimong, you can get rid of them. I don't think it will be peaceful tonight. Ishida Sorikari shook his head inwardly with some regret, and then said to Ishida Meimong. The Chunin of the Ishida family quickly dispersed. Obviously, everyone can see that the head of the Ishida family is asking the younger generation to practice with the previous ninjas. Ishida Meimong did not refuse, having been a Jōnin for so long. Of course, he also wanted to use his Jōnin power to fight against the enemy once. Seeing the actions of Ishida's family, the 6 killers were all trembling with anger. However, a few people were secretly delighted. As long as they got rid of one Jōnin of this family first, the other would become a fish on the display board for them. Jōnin from a small country, you will regret it. Kagayawan snorted even more, and quickly flew towards Ishida Meimong with 2 of them. And the remaining 3 are also pinching their handprints quickly, intending to fully launch the A-level ninjutsu. However, no matter how fast their printing speed is, it can't compare with Wood style, which only needs to be formed with 1 seal. I saw that Ishida Meimong completed the seal in an instant, and then shouted loudly, "Wood style everything and everything." 15. As Ishida Meimong's voice fell, the ground suddenly trembled, and then thick vines sprang out from the ground, like swarms of long dragons, rushing towards those killer ninjas. Wood style is the ability of first Hokage. Logically speaking, Ishida Meimong should not be able to do it. But when Ishida Xinkai chose to give Wood style chakra to Ishida Meimong, he also left the release effects and names of those Wood style ninjutsu that he had seen in anime to Ishida Meimong. With the name of the Chunin technique in his mind and the corresponding release effect, even if Ishida Meimong can't copy it as it is, but relying on his control over his own Wood style chakra, it is completely enough to guide and release a similar one. Of course, the reason why Ishida Xinkai wants to keep those memories is nothing more than to see for himself what the guy from first generation's Wood style is like. In order to experience the power of wood-style ninjutsu, Ishida Xinkai once challenged first generation, but they did not use wood-style chakra at all and beat him. Since then, Ishida Xinkai has fully realized the world's top ninja powerful. What is this? Looking at the tumbling wood-style vines on the ground, not to mention those killer ninjas, even the Ishida family was startled, and the 3 rushing ninjas headed by Kaguya when scattered the thick vines on the spot, and then those vines quickly turned into giant trees one by one, and branches continued to extend from it. Overwhelmed, he was soon sealed up by the vines that came out from nowhere, and was firmly trapped into a cocoon with only his head exposed. The other 3 killer ninjas were startled, and it was too late to form a seal. They kicked their feet and jumped up quickly. They had never seen such a weird ninjutsu. They didn't want to fight for a while, and planned to abandon their 3 companions and escape. However, the speed of those vines is obviously faster. Countless vines quickly split out and quickly chased them up from all directions. The vines were tied and hung together. It's just that Kaguya didn't seem to intend to be caught without a fight. His body shook, and bone spurs quickly burst out from the gaps in the vines, and the restraints were about to be pierced. Seeing this, Ishida Meimong stopped adding vines, and quickly formed seals on her hands without hesitation. Soon after the madra was completed, Ishida Meimong pinched her fingers into orchid fingers, bowed her head and pointed her mouth between her fingers. Fire-style red fire burning technique. Raging flames gushed out instantly, quickly enveloping all 6 of them. A shrill scream sounded from the flames, but it stopped abruptly the next moment. Everyone in the Ishida family stared wide-eyed, looking at the raging flames in front of them. The boiling fire instantly reminded the Ishida family of the Fire Dragon Flame Bullet technique released by Ishida Meimong last time. Although the Chien Burn technique is only a B-level ninjutsu, but promoted by Jōnin's huge chakra, it has greatly exceeded the power of ordinary B-level ninjutsu. When the flames dissipated, the 6 figures inside had disappeared, and those vines were still covered with flames, burning blazingly. It's so powerful. It killed 6 Chunin in one fell swoop. The people of Ishida's family couldn't help being amazed when they looked at Ishida Meimong. Their eyes were full of emotion. Ishida Sora is staring at the giant trees in front of him. He remembers hearing his old man mention it when he was a child. When he was in his 50s, the old man challenged Konoha, first Hokage, when he was young. He wanted to see tried the other sides with style ninjutsu, but failed in the end. Since then, he has memorized the ninjutsu that even the old man regretted. Now he can be sure that what Ishida Meimong just released is probably the wood-style ninjutsu that the old man regretted not being able to see. Grandpa, did you see that? Is the ninjutsu Meimong used just now wood-style? Ishida Sorikari murmured secretly, looking at the giant tree in front of him that needed several people to hug him. He couldn't help but twitch the corners of his eyes. But he didn't know that Ishida Xinkai was standing beside him from the beginning to the end, and his murmuring was naturally heard clearly by Ishida Xinkai. Of course I saw it. This thing was given to this kid by my ancestor. Ishida Xinkai rolled his eyes and muttered to himself. Then Ishida Xinkai looked at Ishida Meimong, but there was some displeasure in his eyes. Chakra switching, control, just sucks. Looking at Ishida Meimong, Ishida Xinkai frowned and said something in a deep voice. In his opinion, the 2 ninjutsu released by Ishida Meimong just now are simply a huge failure, especially with style, which can kill those people directly with style. But this kid can't do it because he wasted a lot of chakra. Instead of using fire-style ninjutsu, and even the mere B-level fire-style ninjutsu is chakra that Ishida Meimong consumed a full A-level ninjutsu. Although Ishida Meimong killed 6 Chunins at once here, it is very powerful, but if Ishida Kongsho was not on the side and put pressure on the opponent with one finger, I am afraid that it is not sure who will win today. And Ishida Kongsho also obviously discovered this point. After the last conversation between the 2, he knew that Ishida Meimong's power came suddenly after the appearance of the illusory ancestor. So for Ishida Meimong's control over chakra, it's not surprising that the degree is a little bad, but I didn't expect it to be so bad. It seems that we need to lay a solid foundation for this kid. Otherwise, he will really suffer a lot in the future. Looking at Ishida Meimong, Ishida Sakari couldn't help but secretly said, and Ishida Xinkai next to him nodded repeatedly. It turned out to be wood-style's blood succession limit. It seems that this trip was not in vain. At this moment, a voice came into the courtyard, and I saw a figure wearing a mask and a cloak standing on the roof of Ishida Xinkai's shrine. Seeing all this, Ishida Xinkai's face turned green. Damn, if you dare to step on Laozi's head, you will die. 16. Naturally, The figure appearing above the shrine immediately attracted the attention of the Ishida family. Who dare to step on my ancestral shrine? Ishida Sorikari shouted angrily immediately, jumped up, took out a handful of kunai in his hand, and threw it directly towards it. Different from Ishida Maemong, Ishida Kongsari, who is the current head of the Ishida family, is an authentic Jōnin, and because of the fusion of Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, his eyesight has also been greatly improved. Even if he does not enter the Sharingan mode, his sharp vision can spot most visible details. The kunai thrown by Ishida Sorikari directly tore through the air, and with a scream like a nightingale instantly came to the opponent, forcing him down directly. The figure jumped down from the roof of the shrine, and people were able to see the opponent's appearance. The bulge of a blue battle uniform showed the opponent's burly figure. Under the forehead protector of Takian village with a scratch was a pair of blue-green pupil of the eye. Angle. Ishida Xinkai recognized the other party's identity at a glance. The person who came was none other than the future Akatsuki organization, which together with Haydn called the Undead Duo. When Ishida Xinkai became famous, she was just a newborn baby. So although the country of Taki and the country of Taki are very close, the two have no intersection. Another traitor. Looking at each other, everyone was taken aback. Everyone present could feel that the person in front was definitely not as bad as the previous 6. Dare to step on my ancestral shrine. Go to hell. Ishida Sorikari guessed that Ishida Xinkai might be able to observe the movements of the Ishida family, and the other party dared to step on the shrine of the Ishida family. Give him another reason to try his best to kill the opponent. I saw Ishida Sara's figure disappearing from the spot. A gust of wind rolled up, grabbed a handful of kunai in his hand, and rushed towards the opponent in an instant. Killing you alone should be able to get a 30 million bounty. The angle seems to have not heard Ishida Sokari's anger, and even faced Ishida Sokari's attack. He didn't panic in the slightest. Instead, he muttered to himself calmly, "Court death." Hearing the other party's words, Ishida Sorikari's face turned red, and the speed of the kunai in his hand accelerated a lot. Kong! There was a crisp sound, and the calm and composed angle took out a handful of kunai from nowhere and collided with the kunai in Ishida Sokari's hand. The powerful force made Ishida Sokari's mouth go numb, and he was caught by the angle. The strength was forced to draw half a step back. It's a Jōnin. Seeing that the other party was able to force Ishida Kakari back, the members of Ishida's family were shocked and couldn't help but secretly said, "But Ishida Xinkai is calm. After all, I am afraid that I am 50 years old now, and I have challenged the existence of Konoha first generation. Coupled with years of accumulation, I am no longer comparable to ordinary Jōnin." But despite this, Ishida Xinkai is still confident, because he still has no use for the pupil technique he gave to his stupid grandson. Sharingan is divided into multiple states, namely 1-go Jade, 3-go Jade, Mangekyo, and Eternal Mangekyo. Except for Eternal Mangekyo, any use will cause damage to the eyes, and excessive use will even permanently lose the Sharingan, but Eternal Mangekyo is an exception, not only has great power, but also has the ability to be almost indestructible. The generation conditions of Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan are also extremely harsh. Eternal Mangekyo is the fusion of 2 Mangekyo blood round eyes. This also makes the entire Hokage ninja, only Uchiha Madara who is fused with his brother's eyes and fused with his brother's eyes. Owned by Uchiha Sasuke. Just because of Ishida Shinkai's presence, it only consumed 30 points of divine power to upgrade the ordinary Sharingan to the existence of Eternal Mangekyo. Ishida Sorikari also obviously knew that he was not the opponent's opponent. Looking at the angle, his eyes quickly ignited a strong fighting spirit. Then, under the surprised gaze, Ishida Sorikari's eyes turned red quickly, and finally turned blood-colored. The originally black pupils spun rapidly, and finally turned into a flower-like pattern in the blood color. This is Sharingan? Seeing the change in Ishida Sora's pupils, the angle of his eyes became surprised, and he asked curiously. Hearing Angle's question, Ishida Sokari's eyes focused on Angle. In the end, the eyes of the two collided. At that moment, Angle felt as if he had been seen through. He had this feeling once under the Sharingan of a Uchiha clan he had killed, but the other party's eyes did not want those Sharingans of the Uchiha clan at all. Not even Uchiha Kagami of the Uchiha tribe ever gave him that feeling. He seemed to feel that he was facing an unimaginable existence. What's going on? Why does it make me feel this way? Angle's heart trembled wildly, his eyes widened, and he looked at Ishida Sorikari in disbelief. He didn't even dare to look into Ishida Sorikari's eyes, as if he would fall into it if he took another look. Is this the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan? Ishida Xinkai side became extremely excited after launching the Sharingan. Wherever the eyes passed, it seemed that everything became extremely clear. It was even powerful enough to perceive every grain of dust and see the enemy, divided into 5 groups of chakra flow trajectory. I don't know where the ancestors got such powerful eyes. What about the Goyu Sharingan of the Uchiha clan? Looking at the enemy in front of him that was completely within his perception, Ishida Sorikari couldn't help but murmured. But these words fell into the ears of Ishida Xinkai by coincidence. Compared to those eyes with hooks? The corner of Ishida Shinkai's mouth twitched a little. The legendary eyes of the Uchiha clan were actually compared with those low-level Sharingan by this guy. If possible, he even wanted to gouge out the eyes of his D grandson. If he doesn't need it, please give it to someone who needs it. 17. Sharingan is a characteristic of the Uchiha family. It was also known as the 3 major pupil techniques in the ninja world, along with Rinnegan and Baiyan. With almost no Rinnegan, the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan has become the nightmare of most ninjas in the ninja world. Since the disappearance of Uchiha Madara, even the Uchiha clan is rare until there is a higher-level Mangekyo Sharingan above the 3 Tomo Sharingan. I remembered. I also felt this strange breath on Uchiha Madara. Here, Angle suddenly let out a low cry, looking at Ishida Sorikari with increasingly weird eyes. After all, Angle is an old guy who has lived for more than 50 years. He not only challenged Senju Hashirama, but also Uchiha Madara. It's just that compared to Senju Hashirama's kindness to let him go, Uchiha Madara almost killed himself at that time. In this life, his 2 battles with the Uchiha Chief Madara and the Senju Chief Hashirama can be said to be the 2 most tragic battles, and even the scene of fighting against Uchiha Madara made him unwilling to recall. Could it be that you got the eyes of Uchiha Madara? Looking at Ishida Sora, as if thinking of something from the angle, his complexion suddenly became weird. Hearing the angle, the people around Ishida's family were also taken aback. Uchiha Madara is well known throughout the ninja world. Even though 20 years have passed, it is still a lingering nightmare in the minds of the older generation. Is the Patriarch's eye the Sharingan of Uchiha Madara? All the members and servants of the Ishida family suddenly became agitated, looking at Ishida Sorikari in astonishment. But after thinking about it, everyone calmed down again. After all, if someone else's eyes are transplanted, the success rate is extremely low, and they can't hide it. They are very clear that the eyes of their patriarch were ordinary eyes before. It changed into this later. Angle is not a fool, regardless of whether these eyes are Uchiha Madara's or not. The memory of fighting Uchiha Madara has turned into fear in his heart, and he doesn't want to mix anything related to Uchiha Madara. So after confirming that Ishida Sorikari's eyes might be the same as Uchiha Madara's, his first thought was to get out of here. In his heart, he was already furiously scolding the task issuer of the underground money exchange office. With wood-style ninjutsu and the eyes of the strongest Uchiha clan back then, the total number of such people is only 30 million? The amount of the reward not only represents the difficulty of the task, but also a reference for the ninjas who accept the task to measure each other's strength. Once someone deliberately conceals the difficulty of the task, all the ninjas will be retaliated against. Ishida Xinkai next to him looked at the angle with erratic eyes. His face suddenly moved, and he said thoughtfully, "This guy can't recognize this eye. Is he going to escape? Run." As soon as Ishida Xinkai finished speaking, there was an immediate movement from the angle. Without any hesitation, he glanced at Ishida Meimong, who was about to block him from a distance and didn't want to fight, so he moved quickly towards the west. Angle's escape without hesitation also surprised the Ishida family. Grass, if you really want to run, if you dare to step on Tai Sui's head to break ground, you want to leave without paying a price? Ishida Xinkai stared, cursed randomly, and then set his eyes on Ishida Meimon, who was a little unresponsive. One finger, Ishida Sorikari didn't expect this to happen. His insensitive perception allowed him to clearly capture the angle, and immediately activated the pupil technique. Target. I saw the pupil of Ishida Sora's left eye shrank, instantly recorded all the characteristics of the angle chakra and aura, and a radar-like picture appeared in his mind. Immediately afterwards, his right eye also trembled suddenly, and quickly began to rotate. A dark red flame quickly appeared in Ishida Sorikari's hand, as if it had turned into a short bow with a sharp arrow dangling on it. Yama. Following Ishida Sorikari's murmur again, the sharp arrow flew out instantly. At the same time, Ishida Meimong quickly rushed to the courtyard wall of Ishida's house. At this moment, Ishida Meimong exudes an old-fashioned temperament, which is completely different from the Ishida Meimong just now. On the contrary, it is very similar to the way Ishida Meimong turned the tide when Ishida's family was in disaster. It's the original state. Meimong has to be serious. Ishida Sorikari's son and Ishida's friend stared at Ishida Meimong's back and immediately said happily, "Would style birth of the tree world." At this time, Ishida Meimong murmured softly, quickly pinched her palms, and then stamped her palms on the wall. In an instant, the ground in front of him began to tremble. How? Kakuzu, who was fleeing, was stunned for a moment. Years of experience made him step on his feet and let his body jump up quickly. Immediately afterwards, a little bit of green was rapidly spreading on the ground around him, and then the green grew rapidly, and in an instant, vines grew together, forming towering trees. The vines on those uncles were like tentacles, constantly rushing towards the angle. Damn it! Why is this guy's with style so powerful all of a sudden? The angle of his face changed. He clearly remembered the terrible wood-style ninjutsu of the Ishida family just now, but now the precision of this ninjutsu is not weaker than him at all. Just now, it was as if a ninjutsu was completely released by two people. In an instant, Kakuzu's surroundings had turned into a sea of forest, and the ever-extending vines made it impossible for Kakuzu to leave. But at this moment, the deadly fiery red arrow also flew over. Damn it! Kakuzu suddenly felt a powerful aura, which made him curse secretly, and quickly dodged the sharp arrow with a wrong figure. But the sharp arrow turned its direction by the air conditioner and pierced Kakuzu's arm directly. Then the sharp arrows scattered, and bug-like runes began to appear on Kakuzu's arms, and they quickly came to Kakuzu's heart. After the rune entered Kakuzu's heart stopped beating instantly. The next moment, as if under tremendous pressure, Kakuzu's heart was directly crushed. Mark of Life. Yin Luo chases the soul. This is the pupil technique of Ishida Konkari Sharingan. 18. The heart was crushed, but Kakuzu did not die immediately, but a black shadow monster with a white mask quickly fell off his body, and the soul-chasing arrow released by Ishida Kokari seemed to sense that there were other hearts on Kakuzu's body. The insect-like runes squeezed Kakuzu's heart and gathered it again, and then quickly spread towards the heart at the next moment. Hateful. Feeling the runes that roamed like lion majesty in his body, Kakuzu couldn't stand for a moment. Kakuzu mobilized Chakra frantically, trying to stop the rune invasion, but to no avail. The rune seemed to be transparent, and it easily entered Kakuzu's second heart. After the heart stopped beating for a second, it burst again the next moment. Kakuzu's body trembled, his complexion became more and more ugly. He wanted to concentrate on fighting against the mysterious rune, but the vines constantly rushing around him made him unable to calm down at all. Soon, the rune reappeared, and then quickly spread towards Kakuzu's third heart. Damn it! Cursing secretly again, Kakuzu's eyes sank, as if he had made some kind of decision. Kakuzu stretched out his hand, put his 5 fingers together, and stabbed himself in the chest. Immediately after pulling it out, a heart was grabbed out, and the top of the heart was already densely covered with dark red strange runes like chains, and then the runes suddenly lit up and then disappeared quickly, and the heart stopped beating in an instant. Kakuzu threw the heart out without hesitation, and it exploded in mid-air. The rune did not appear again, which made Kakuzu suddenly relieved. At this time, another dark red Yin Luo soul-chasing arrow rushed over, and at the same time, the vines also struck again. The arrow also bypassed countless vines and hit Kakuzu again at an extremely tricky angle. This time Kakuzu didn't hesitate anymore. A black shadow quickly split from his body, blocking the rushing vines, and Kakuzu also quickly grabbed out the rune-infused heart and threw it out. The fourth heart was crushed in the air, and the monster holding the vine disappeared instantly. Kakuzu seized the opportunity, quickly rushed out of the range of trees, and quickly disappeared into the night. Hey! There is no special pupil technique. Even if you use with style in this dark night, you can only attack by feeling with black eyes. Taking a deep look at the direction in which Kakuzu was fleeing, Ishida Xinkai did not pursue inside. Grandson, did you see that? This is ninjutsu. Immediately afterwards, he continued to murmur, and then Ishida Xinkai lifted the descending state. The next moment, Meimong gained control of his body and found that everyone in his family was looking at him with fiery faces. Then Meimong seemed to think of something and quickly looked to the west, only to see countless towering trees appearing there, forming a dark forest together, and couldn't help showing shock. Is this really what I did? Ishida Meimong couldn't believe it. Compared with the forest of towering giant trees in front of him, the wood-style ninjutsu he released against Kaguya Win's Chunin was nothing. Just now he seemed to have a dream, dreaming that the same old ancestor on the portrait in the ancestral hall reappeared in his consciousness, and kept saying that he wanted to let himself experience the real wood-style ninjutsu. Immediately afterwards, like a bystander, he felt the rapid pinching of his body, accurately transforming chakra and outputting ninjutsu. Compared with the surrounding Ishida family members and servants, Ishida Maimon has a deeper understanding of the ninjutsu just now. Ishida Kongsho released the pupil technique 3 times in a row. Although his eyes were not affected, his physical strength and energy were consumed a lot, so he did not continue to use Yama, but quickly came to Ishida Maimong's side. Just looking at Ishida Maimong, Ishida Sorikari's expression was a bit complicated. Just now, he also noticed the change of Ishida Maimong. The temperament of Ishida Maimong when he was facing the enemy just now was very similar to the person in his impression. Ishida Sorikari didn't finish speaking, but Ishida Maimong nodded immediately. That's right, just now, I was upper-bodied by my ancestor, and it was he who controlled my body and released ninjutsu. Taking a deep breath, Ishida Maimong nodded without waiting for Ishida Sakari to ask. He didn't shy away from the clansmen around him. His performance today was completely different. Even if he didn't say anything now, someone would ask. Ishida Sorikari knew about it a long time ago, so he didn't speak. But the surrounding Ishida family members and servants looked at Ishida Maimong in astonishment, as if they had heard the Arabian Nights. Maimong, you said, you were controlled by your ancestors? Could it be the same as last time? Ishida's friend next to him came out, staring at Ishida Maimong in disbelief. This is really unbelievable. How dare he believe it easily? Even after seeing Ishida Maimong nodding, he still couldn't accept it. You must know that the ancestor has been dead for decades, and this suddenly appeared, which really makes people feel a little panicked. These guys, I am your ancestor after all. As long as you worship me honestly, can I still harm you? Ishida Xinkai next to him saw all this, and noticed the expressions of the clansmen as if they had seen a ghost, couldn't help but rolled their eyes, and said dissatisfiedly at the same time. But Ishida Sorikari next to him suddenly made a sound. That's right, my ancestor was a legendary figure in the country of Tianji before he was alive. After death, he didn't know how to stay in the world. It wasn't until the day when Ishida's family suffered a catastrophe that I was awakened by alarm. My injury was also healed by the ancestor. So, in the future, anyone in the Ishida family who dares to disrespect their ancestors will be punished as treason. I saw Ishida Sorikari coming in front of everyone with a solemn expression, and said seriously. He knew that everything about himself and Ishida's family was given by his old man, so he didn't allow anyone to question Ishida Xinkai. Ask for flower tickets, ask for support. 19. At this moment, in Sinong City, a few kilometers away from Ishida's home, a team of more than 400 people from Sinong City walked out of the city gate and marched towards Ishida's house. Tanaka Langtai, a retainer of the Daming Mansion, remembered Tanaka Akira who was hiding in the Lord's mansion and refused to come out with him. His eyes were full of disdain. In his opinion, 200 or 300 people are enough to deal with the only remaining miscellaneous soldiers of Ishida's family. But the Lord who is afraid of death still remembers the fact that more than 1,000 troops sent by the Daming Mansion to encircle Ishida's house, and most of them were killed and injured and fled. Mr. Langtai, we are about 10 minutes away from Ishida's house. After leaving the gate of Sinong City, the army commander of Sinong City pulled the reins of his flattery and said to the leader, Tanaka Langtai. Although he, as an army zhang, can be regarded as an earth emperor like Tanaka Akira in Sinong City, but after all, Tanaka Langtai is a member of the daimyo's family, and he is also a confidant of the daimyo of the current Tianji country, so he naturally dare not neglect in the slightest. Well, yes, after Ishida's house is settled, you can return to the daimyo mansion with me? Nodding his head, Tanaka Langtai admired this samurai who respected him very much. Ah, really, thank you, Mr. Langtai. Hearing the other party's words, Zhang Junzhang's breathing suddenly became heavy, and he hurriedly said to Tanaka Langtai excitedly, and even the address became extremely respectful. However, immediately after, the army commander looked ahead. His face suddenly froze. What's wrong? Tanaka Langtai asked immediately after noticing the change of the army commander. It's nothing. It's just that I haven't been to Ishida's house for a long time, and I even forgot that there is a forest here. Shaking his head, the army commander quickly shook his head and said that he didn't want to leave a bad impression on himself in front of this lord. Not long after, the army of Sinong City saw the brightly lit Ishida's house in the distance. Everyone looked in the direction of Ishida's house in surprise. According to their thinking, Ishida's house should have been attacked and suffered heavy losses, but from a distance, it didn't look like he had just experienced a war. My lord. The army commander looked at Tanaka Langtai hesitantly. What do you know? Those who took the mission are all killers, and those guys kill people without anyone noticing. Regardless of the calm appearance of Ishida's house on the surface, it is estimated that all the people inside have died. Tanaka Langtai immediately smiled disdainfully. Although there are only 2 big cities in Tianji country, from the perspective of the capital, except for the capital, other places are rural areas, and the people inside are just bumpkins who have never seen the world. Hearing Tanaka Langtai's words, the army of Sinong City immediately relaxed, and at the same time, their eyes were full of horror. It was a fantasy for them to be able to wipe out a ninja family so easily. Stop, who are you? Just when Tanaka Langtai approached, there was a voice, and several figures rushed out and questioned them loudly. Although the torches illuminated their team, they couldn't see the figure in the darkness ahead, so Tanaka Langtai directly regarded the other party as the killer who received the bounty from Ishida's family. You haven't left yet? We are samurai from Tanakuni and the employer of the bounty mission. We are here to take back the land of Ishida's family. Tanaka Langtai said calmly. The other party must have completed the task for coming out with such a great fanfare. In order to get the bounty, these guys must not do anything to the employer. Employer? Hearing Ishida Langtai's words, the person in the dark murmured with a weird tone, but Tanaka Langtai didn't care. Seeing that the figures had lost their voices, Tanaka Langtai smiled and planned to lead the people forward, but the other party did not leave, but retreated, surrounding them. Fire-style flame bomb technique. Fire-style firewall. Fire-style earth coiling fire technique. Just when everyone was wondering, those figures shouted in their mouths. A bunch of fire lights lit up, and the army commander also saw the family emblem on the other party. Kikyo, they are the ninjas of the Ishida family. The army commander of Sinong City's heart tightened, and he immediately exclaimed, "A ninja from the Ishida family?" Hearing the exclamation of the army commander, Tanaka Langtai was also a little unbelievable. According to the plan, Ishida's house should have been solved by the killer who accepted the mission at this moment. But at this moment, the ninjutsu of those retainers and clansmen of the Ishida family have been released. Although ordinary ninjas are not much stronger than those samurai, once they are allowed to release their ninjutsu, the powerful area damage makes them directly become a sharp weapon for harvesting life on the battlefield. It's also thanks to these people that these people regard the Ishida family as killers, otherwise, they would never be able to release ninjutsu so easily. Damn it! Looking at the flames in front of him, Tanaka Langtai knew that he had miscalculated, cursed secretly, and jumped up from his horse, followed closely by Zhang Jun, who was next to him. The flames also engulfed the horses under him, and the raging flames instantly engulfed half of the warriors. The two fell from mid-air, and the army commander immediately drew out the long blade at his waist. Ishida's family, very well, you are dead? However, Tanaka Langtai next to him let out a low voice. He knew that the people he brought could not do anything to Ishida's family. Seeing that the leader ran away without even moving his hands, the rest of the samurai who were not involved in the flames dared to stay longer, and immediately ran away in the direction where Tanaka Langtai left. Hateful originally, he thought there was going to be a big battle, but he didn't expect the samurai from the Daming Mansion to be so stupid, and even sold him out. The army commander's expression changed immediately, but those people didn't go after the deserter, but surrounded him. The sergeant simply threw away his long knife and gave up resistance. This time, Sinong Sheng really fell. Even, Kakuzu fled back, and the people in the underground money exchange would never let go of the Tanakuni daimyo house as the employer. 20. After the army commander of Sinong City was arrested, he was directly thrown into the private dungeon of Ishida's house, and he didn't even see Ishida Xinkai from the beginning to the end. This left the army commander, who had prepared a full-bodied rhetoric and wanted to threaten to keep himself, to have nothing to say. At this moment, in addition to the ninjas who are normally patrolling outside, members of the Ishida family and even the latest servants who joined the Ishida family were gathered outside the shrine of Ishida Xinkai. Master Patriarch, is what you said true? Your injury and Master Meimeng's ability to become a Jōnin are all the reasons for Master Ancestor's action? In front of the shrine, Ishida Yuto asked Ishida Sorikari in surprise. He is the strongest among Ishida's servants, although he is a Chunin, but in terms of fighting skills and experience, even the current Ishida Meimeng will not benefit in his hands. It was Ishida Sorikari who saved Ishida's life bravely, and he was even more loyal to Ishida's family. Even if he was asked to pay for his life, he would not hesitate at all. But let alone the fact that the dead ancestors of the Ishida family appeared in the Ishida family is a bit unbelievable. It's just that everyone watched the dying Ishida Meimong recover in an instant, and even his strength became Jōnin. Such a method is simply unheard of. Not only that, but Ishida Meimong also had the legendary blood successor boundary, but no one has ever heard of the appearance of a blood successor boundary in the ancestors of Ishida's family. What's more, it is wood-style ninjutsu. Although some people have heard that one of the founders of Konoha is the strong man of wood-style blood succession limit, but that is also Konoha's family, and they have no half-hair with their Ishida family. Money relationship. Not to mention that these servants are a little confused. Even the Ishida family members are full of doubts in their minds, although they don't say it on the surface. Ishida Xinkai frowned beside him, also thinking secretly. He is very clear that if he wants to appear in reality, the conversion of incense value into divine power is an indispensable existence. And if you want to get more incense points, in addition to improving the belief status of the people in the clan, the other is to increase the sphere of influence of Ishida's family, that is, the sphere of influence of his shrine. The more shrines he has, and the more people worship him, the more incense he has. After all, there are only a small number of people who can be as devoted to themselves as Ishida Meimong. Although he can be a big head, he still needs more people who worship him if he wants to develop in the long run. System. Show my system panel. After thinking for a moment, Ishida Xinkai suddenly thought to himself. Ancestral Spirit. Ishida Xinkai, Weakness, God Power, 54, can be used to exchange items in the Ancestral Spirit Mall, extremely scarce. Please replenish immediately. Spiritual Servant, 0, extremely scarce. Please replenish immediately. Sacred Shrine, 2, extremely scarce. Please add immediately. Incense Value, 4,153, can be transformed into Divine Power, extremely scarce. Please replenish immediately. Homeowner, 1 population 138. Following Ishida Shinkai's order, the system panel instantly appeared in his eyes. Unlike the last time, the incense value and divine power have been changing all the time. This time the population has increased by another 90 people, and Ishida Shinkai's original, extremely weak, dying status after the name has become weak. Likewise, the shrines that originally appeared dilapidated became scarce, and Ishida Xinkai estimated that the extra shrines should be the ones enshrined by the shrine servants. There are so many people in the Ishida family, except for Sorikari, Meimong, and a few juniors. Everyone else treats me in a state of superficial belief with only 0.01 incense value per day. They alone are not enough. After meditating for a moment, Ishida Xinkai said something in a deep voice, and then set his sights on these Ishida family members and those servants. Just let you see me. After pondering for a while, Ishida Xinkai thought secretly. He didn't want to show up, after all. He didn't know if it would cause unnecessary trouble, but after thinking about it carefully, if he wanted to develop incense, the Ishida family was destined to rise strongly, so he didn't plan to hide it any more tucked in. Taking a look at his own information, even if all the current incense value is exchanged for the divine power, there are only more than 90 points, which is not enough for him to come directly from the body of the ancestor spirit. The avatar does not need to consume the power of the gods, but he does not have it, and that thing also needs to be shaped with the power of the gods. Not to mention reincarnation, and the bloodline descending could not achieve the effect he wanted. In the end, Ishida Xinkai could only look at Zuling Mall. System. Open the Zuling Mall for me. Without hesitation, Ishida Xinkai ordered directly in her heart. The next moment, a quaint panel appeared in front of Ishida Shinkai's eyes, resembling a shelf like a vending machine, with items placed on it. Physical objects Yin Yang Dun. The combination of Yin Dun and Yang Dun is the foundation of creation. After using it, you can directly obtain the power of 6 paths price, 1 million divine power. Fruit of the God Tree. After using it, you will have endless chakra and have an immortal body. Price, 5 million divine power. Effect Class Level 1 Upgrade. The amount of chakra of the whole family population increases by 1 point. Price, 5 points of spiritual power, limited purchase once a month, refreshed at the beginning of each month. Level 2 Upgrade. The amount of chakra for the entire family population increases by 10 points. Price, 50 points of divine power, limited to 1 purchase per year, refreshed at the beginning of the year. And Ishida Xinkai also set his sights on 2 of the items. Kemui Stone. It contains powerful chakra, which will be triggered immediately after use. and will be fed back to everyone within a radius of 100 meters. Price: 10 points of divine power. Bloodjade. Ancestral spirit consumables. Ancestral spirits can leave their own breath and descend directly without using the blood of the tribe. The descending only retains the strength of the ancestor spirits before they were alive and lasts for 30 minutes. Price: 20 points of divine power. 21. Facing the doubts of the clansmen, Ishida Sora also hesitated, because he couldn't tell whether the ancestor was watching now. After all, he himself had no way to actively contact the ancestor. Even he doesn't know how the ancestors appeared. If the ancestors can only come to him and Ishida Meimong, doesn't it mean that only the two of them can see the ancestors? In this case, no matter what he said, he could only rely on his status as the head of the family to make the clansmen feel awe of their ancestors. If such a result is known to the ancestors, he is not sure how the ancestors will teach him. As the eldest grandson of Ishida Xinkai, Ishida Sorikari is the only person in the entire Ishida family who has actually met his ancestor. He is very aware of his ancestor's temper. When Konoha, first Hokage, personally invited the old man to join Konoha, he was rejected by him up. He even asserted that the stability among the 5 major countries would not last forever, and that the 5 major ninja villages would become a sharpening stone for the game between countries. At the beginning, he reminded first Hokage to be careful of other countries and Uchiha Madara. At the time, Ishida Shinkai's reminder was just a joke, and no one would believe that the war would continue. But now, thinking back, every word and every decision of the ancestors had a deep meaning. Just when Ishida Sorikari was wondering whether to wait until the next time the ancestor came to talk to him, the chakra of Ishida's family suddenly became extremely rich. In an instant, a huge chakra flooded the entire Ishida's house, shaking everyone's spirits. It's a shrine. Suddenly, Ishida Sorikari stared, and the Sharingan was activated instantly, and immediately discovered that the source of the huge chakra was the shrine behind him. Hearing Ishida Sorikari's words, everyone was shocked and looked over quickly. Although they can't see chakra, the chakra is extremely strong, and it is crazily drilling into their bodies to restore the chakra that has been consumed for them, so they can feel the strong chakra, as Ishida Sakari said. General direction of source. It's the ancestor who appeared. Ishida Meimong felt the rapid recovery of chakra in his body and immediately became excited. He was already in awe of Ishida Xinkai to the point of falling to the ground, so he didn't have the slightest strange emotion towards his ancestor and knelt down on the spot. Seeing this, Ishida Sorikari, as the head of the family, of course would not be negligent, no matter whether it was really the ancestor's apparition or not. But what happened in the shrine must have something to do with their ancestors, so he immediately knelt down and worshipped. But the other Ishida family members, and those servants of the Ishida family, dared not hesitate, and hurriedly knelt down. Several children of the Ishida family knelt and stared at the shrine ahead with their curious eyes wide open. Suddenly, a figure walked out of the shrine. The figure was dressed in a blue safari suit with a family crest embroidered with a lisianthus flower pattern on his chest. Although he looked old, every step he took was so powerful. Ishida Sakari and Ishida Meimong were the first to feel each other, especially Ishida Sakari, who felt an extremely familiar aura. "Get up, everyone." Ishida Xinkai glanced at the more than 100 people kneeling in front of him, nodded, and then spoke slowly. The calm words reached the ears of everyone in Ishida's family, which shocked everyone. When Ishida Sorikari heard the familiar voice, his body trembled. Then he raised his head nervously and saw the figure in front of him. At the same time, his memory from more than 30 years ago was uncovered, and the figure overlapped with the figure in front of him, completely carved out of the same mold. For a moment, Ishida Sorikari felt his nose sore. Although he withdrew from the Sharingan state, his eyes were still red, and there was even water mist swirling in the eye sockets of this man in his 40s. "Ancestor, it's really you." Grandson is ashamed of his ancestors. Looking at Ishida Xinkai above, Ishida Sorikari let out a mournful cry, and instead of getting up like the others, he slammed his head heavily on the ground. Unlike the last time I saw Ishida Xinkai in a dream, his spirit in the dream would actively forget the things in reality, so he would not feel much emotion when he saw Ishida Xinkai. But it's different now. Ishida Shinkai's Ishida family, which was founded by the famous Ishida Xinkai, was almost destroyed in their hands. In the end, Ishida Xinkai had to come out to save the scene in person. How useless they are to do this. In his memory, Ishida Xinkai is a majestic person. Although his strength is not at the top of the Jōnin world, his way of teaching the clansmen is unmatched by other families. Even, in his heart, he has always had a goal, which is to be able to surpass his grandfather. But the blow of reality left him bruised. Now that he really saw Ishida Xinkai, all the grievances that the Ishida family suffered before poured out, and he wished to confide all of them to the former only backbone of the Ishida family. Hold back to my ancestors. Seeing the appearance of Ishida Sorikari's wronged little daughter-in-law, Ishida Shinkai's complexion suddenly darkened, and he immediately gave a low drink. The faces of all the people present changed. Ishida Sakari was even more taken aback, and looked at Ishida Xinkai aggrieved. If you dare to cry again, you will no longer be a member of my Ishida family. Ishida Xinkai did not expect that her grandson, who has always been stubborn and resolute, would have such a side. It would be fine if he was an ordinary person, but this kid is from the Ishida family, the patriarch of the Ishida family. The so-called soldiers who love one will love the whole family. If the patriarch of the Ishida family is like this, he will really be P************* D off. Sure enough, Ishida Shinkai's angry reprimand made Ishida Sokari's originally brewing emotions instantly suffocated. 22. Although other people in the clan have not seen what Ishida Xinkai looked like when he was alive, they have seen the portraits in the ancestral hall and shrine every day recently. For a moment, everyone overlapped the figure in front with the portrait behind the shrine's shrine. It's really the ancestor of the Ishida family. Ishida Yongdu raised his head and looked at the figure in front of him, exclaimed, and quickly bowed down again. His life was saved by Ishida Sora, and he even changed his surname to the Ishida family. He also regarded himself as a member of the Ishida family. Questioned, immediately trembled, and quickly knocked his head heavily on the ground. Seeing this, the others didn't dare to doubt it. They all pressed their heads to the ground in a hurry. Clanman Ishida Yongdu's belief status has been improved to worship. 0.3 incense points are generated every day. Clanman Ishida's friend's belief status is increased to fanatical worship, generates 1 incense point per day. Clanman Kitano Harako's belief status has been increased to worship. 0.3 points of incense are generated every day. The belief status of the clansman Sakamaka Fuji has been improved to worship. 0.3 points of incense value is generated every day. After confirming that Ishida Xinkai is really the ancestor of the Ishida family, most of the people present had their superficial belief status improved, and Ishida Sorikari's son even reached the same level of worship as Ishida Sorikari. But Ishida Xinkai was not satisfied. Yes, I am the founder of the Ishida family, Ishida Xinkai. Ishida Xinkai nodded and said calmly. Although the opening of Cheat released the ambition that was suppressed deep in his heart from the previous life, but he did not reveal it in front of his clansmen. I didn't expect you, ancestor, to be alive. God bless my Ishida family. Ishida Meimong said happily that in his eyes, Ishida Shinkai's figure seemed to become taller and taller, like a mountain. No. As soon as Ishida Meimong finished speaking, Ishida Xinkai shook his head and denied Ishida Meimong's words. Hearing Ishida Shinkai's denial, the Ishida family members and servants who had bowed their heads all raised their heads and looked at the ancestor of the Ishida family in surprise. I am, indeed, dead. I died 30 years ago. Ishida Xinkai didn't hide anything and said directly and calmly. From his tone, everyone heard an indisputable meaning, as if he had already looked down on his own death. And when he said that he was dead, he didn't have any strange emotions. Hearing Ishida Shinkai's words, everyone's heart sank, and the blood of Ishida Shinkai's eyes turned red, and they were about to cry again. After I died, I stayed in the ninja world with a secret method. I have been sleeping all this time. I didn't wake up until Meimong sincerely refilled the incense for me. Ishida Shinkai's words were half true and half false, but there was no doubt about it. As he spoke, he nodded towards Ishida Meimong. To be honest, Ishida Meimong's aptitude is really worse than Ishida Xinkai has ever seen. But this does not affect his cultivation of Ishida Meimong, and the ancestral system exists. As the ancestor of the Ishida family, he naturally treats them equally, let alone if it is not Ishida Meimong. I might really disappear in the last big war with the Ishida family. Relying on Ishida Meimong's incense back then, not to mention his poor aptitude, even if he is a fool, Ishida Xinkai has the confidence to train him to a 6-pads level. Hearing Ishida Shinkai's words, everyone turned their attention to Ishida Xinkai. My stick of incense? Even Ishida Meimong cried out in surprise. At this time, everyone understood why the ancestors favored Ishida Meimong so much, and even forcibly raised him to the level of Jōnin's chakra, which endowed him with the unique blood successor limit. For a while, those who knew the inside story looked at Ishida Maemong with envy, and at the same time, everyone was a little bit rejoicing. If it wasn't for Ishida Maemong's incense, I'm afraid their Ishida family would really be wiped out. Therefore, no one feels jealous of Ishida Maemong being favored by butterfly ancestors. This is the difference between the Ishida family and the Tanaka family of Daimyo Prefecture. The Ishida family is always a family. Everyone is a relative, brothers and sisters of the same mother, and blood is the bond of everyone. But the Tanaka family in Daming Mansion is different. The so-called wealthy family has no family ties. The status of the daimyo makes it impossible for the Tanaka family to unite together. There are even brothers and sisters who kill each other. This has been the case since ancient times. So even though Ishida Xinkai was as close as brothers to the daimyo of the Tianji country, he was determined not to let his younger generation get too close to the daimyo's house. The turmoil in Ishida's house didn't last long, and soon everyone looked at the ethereal old man above again, and they all knew that this ancestor still had something to say. The Ishida family suffered a catastrophe at the beginning, thanks to your great help, and now I have joined the Ishida family. I am considered a member of the Ishida family. As the ancestor of the Ishida family, I will treat them equally. Ishida Xinkai glanced at those servants, then took a deep breath, and said with a relaxed expression, "Could it be?" Everyone was excited, and took a look at Ishida Maemong. Not only Ishida Shinkai's blood clan, but even the original servants of Ishida's family seemed to have guessed something, and their bodies trembled with excitement. Everyone's nervous expression was seen by Ishida Xinkai, and the corner of Ishida Shinkai's mouth twitched. From now on, those who are loyal to the Ishida family, I guarantee that you and your descendants will enter Jōnin within 5 years. Ishida Xinkai took another deep breath and shouted loudly. At the same time, he also sank into the Zilling Mall in his heart. Exchange immediately, 1 level up. Exchange immediately, level 2 upgrade. 23. As soon as Ishida Shinkai's words came out, it immediately caused an uproar among the crowd in front. Jōnin, that represents the high-end power of a ninja. The number of Jōnin in many small countries can be counted with one hand, and even the Jōnin in the ninja villages of the 5 major countries may be around 100, although the servants of the Ishida family know that the ancestor of the Ishida family will definitely draw for themselves cake. But Ishida Xinkai didn't expect that Ishida Xinkai would draw the cake so big. Too big to accept. Must be a Jōnin within 5 years. Ancestor, aren't you joking? Hearing Ishida Shinkai's words, everyone raised their heads in disbelief. If it is said that Ishida Xinkai can make someone or a few people enter Jōnin within 5 years, it is understandable. After all, Ishida Maemong is a living example, capable of crushing most Jōnin. But what Ishida Xinkai said, that everyone must reach Jōnin, is too unbelievable. However, there are also people who are still believing. After all, people who should have died are standing in front of them now. Don't say anything to let people enter Jōnin. Even if Ishida Xinkai said to let their Ishida family unify the entire ninja world, they would not deny. Joke? Ishida Xinkai was non-committal, just smiled slightly. Here in his heart, the system has sounded a reminder. Ding. Use a level-up upgrade, and the chakra amount of the entire clan will increase by 1. With a sound from the system, everyone present suddenly felt that their chakra levels had increased slightly. 1 point of chakra level was not an exaggeration for Jōnin, but for Chunin, Genin, and those warriors, it was somewhat outrageous. In me, chakra has increased. First, a servant of Genin Ishida's family called out, his eyes full of surprise. You increased too? Me too. I thought I was the only one. You too? We've all increased too. More and more people heard the exclamation and quickly echoed it, especially those Genin, who don't have much chakra. They are very sensitive to every increase in chakra, and they are all very excited. Generally, unless there is a special pupil technique, ordinary people can't see the flow of chakra at all, but this chakra is produced out of thin air in their own bodies, and everyone has a clear feeling. Hearing that everyone's chakra has improved, Ishida Yudo's eyes widened. Old ancestor. Ishida Youngdu recalled what Ishida Xinkai said just now, that everyone would enter Jōnin within 5 years, and when he thought that everyone had added chakra, he couldn't help but exclaimed. His age is not much younger than Ishida Sorikari, and he also understands that his aptitude has reached the limit of growth. The last time his chakra increased was 4 years ago. In the future, as he grows older and his body functions decline, his talent and the chakra in his body will also gradually weaken, which makes him accept his fate. But now, after a few years, the chakra in his body increased again, which made him regain hope in an instant. After the words fell, Ishida Yongdu kowtowed down again on the spot, and the center of his brows was pressed heavily on the ground again. Clanman Ishida Yongdu's belief status has been increased to fanatical worship. 1 point of incense is generated every day. The system on Ishida Xinkai's side showed a prompt again, and Ishida Yongdu's belief status was improved again, which made Ishida Xinkai happy. The incense value generated by fanatical worship every day is 100 times that of the original superficial belief. It is already equivalent to the value of incense offered by hundreds of servants. At first, everyone was puzzled by the sudden extra chakra in the body, but now seeing Ishida Yongdu's reaction, everyone understood, and all bowed down to Ishida Xinkai again. Name, Ishida Yudo status, retainer, Ishida family, S**X, male age, 44 years old blood inheritance limit. Nun chakra amount, 93, Chunin, belief status, fanatical worship, generate 1 point of incense every day. Vital status, healthy skills, intermediate physique, advanced clone technique, advanced body replacement technique, intermediate invisibility, wind style invisible lawn. Ishida Xinkai was looking at Ishida Yuto, whose head was pressed against the ground, and his heart was filled with joy. Through these days of understanding, Ishida Xinkai has learned from the system that the state of belief is not only the degree of belief in the ancestors, but also the expression of loyalty to the ancestors. It can be said that it is absolutely loyal to the level of fanatical worship. The people under fanatical worship are just like the so-called fanatics in the novels Ishida Xinkai read in his previous life. They can even give their lives to the objects of worship. Is it more than 90 chakra? Looking at Ishida Yudo in front, Ishida Xinkai frowned slightly. In that case, I'll help you step into Jōnin first. After a moment of pondering, Ishida Xinkai suddenly said something. At the same time, I used the state of level 2 promotion in my heart. Hearing Ishida Xinkai's words below, everyone was taken aback for a moment. They realized that the ancestor was going to make another Jōnin in front of them, and they were shocked, but they didn't know who Ishida Xinkai was referring to. That being said, everyone has some expectations in their hearts. Ding. Use the second level upgrade, the chakra amount of the whole family population plus 10. The system sounded again, and everyone was shocked. They felt a more powerful chakra appear in their bodies out of thin air, and their excited bodies were trembling. At the same time, the system on Ishida Xinkai's side also started to refresh prompts frantically. The belief status of the clansman Ishida Tai has been improved to fanatical worship, generates 1 point of incense per day. Clanman Katano Hirako's belief status has been increased to fanatical worship, generates 1 point of incense per day. The belief status of the clansman Sakamaka Fuji has been improved to fanatical worship, generates 1 point of incense every day. Ding. Congratulations, host. The number of clansmen who worship you has reached 100, and the belief panel is open, and the number of people in each state of belief can be checked through the panel. 24. A series of system prompts made Ishida Xinkai happy, but in order to ensure the effect, Ishida Xinkai had to hold back the excitement in her heart and still maintain the majesty that her ancestors should have. At this moment, the people of the Ishida family are still digesting the sudden extra chakra in their bodies. Different from the chakra released by the Kamui stone for recovery, the chakra brought by the second level upgrade to the tribe directly increases the upper limit. 10 chakra points are enough for ordinary people to reach the Genin standard, and some Genin in the clan directly entered the Chunin level. And Ishida Xinkai glanced at Ishida Yuto, who was shaking constantly, but he communicated with the system in his heart. Help me open the belief panel. Ishida Xinkai groaned, and then said lightly, Faith panel enshrined as a god, generates 100 points of incense every day, 0.5 body projection, generates 30 points of incense every day, 2 zealous worship, generates 1 incense point per day, 113 worship, generates 0.3 points of incense per day, 31 superficial belief, 0.01 point of incense value is generated every day, 2 There are 2 5-bodied ones? Ishida Xinkai was taken aback. There was too much news just now, and he didn't even notice that someone raised him to a state of complete surrender. Ishida Xinkai did not hesitate to click into the 5-body throwing state, and saw that besides Ishida Meimong, there was an additional name of Ishida Sakari. This kid. I have to show some tricks from Bin Lousy before I believe him. Seeing Ishida Sakari's name, Ishida Xinkai rolled his eyes. He knew very well that Ishida Sakari's faith status would definitely improve, so he was not surprised that Ishida Sakari had reached the same state as Ishida Meimong. I don't know. If you step into the level of respecting gods, will there be any special effects? Ishida Xinkai glanced at the column of the highest faith status. It is still a circle, and said with some expectation in his heart. Suddenly, just as Ishida Xinkai was looking at the god-respecting status bar, the number of 5 body throwing jumped again and became 3. Ishida Xinkai was taken aback for a moment, and then a gleam of joy burst into his eyes. The state of belief represents the loyalty and admiration of the tribe to Ishida Xinkai. Reaching the level of 5 body surrender, it means that it will never be possible to betray, even if it is an illusion in the body, and the revenge of killing his father cannot shake Ishida Shinkai's position in the other party's heart. Look who it is, we must cultivate it well. Ishida Xinkai murmured secretly. Just when he was about to go in to see who the extra person was, a system prompt appeared in his mind. Clanman Ishida Yongdu's belief status has been improved to 5 body throwing, generates 30 points of incense every day. Ding! Congratulations to the ancestors. There are people who are not of the blood of your own blood who have reached the level of surrendering to you, and opened a special building. The ancestors' mourning hall. Ding! People who are not from the blood of this family have reached the point of surrendering to you. You can descend on them. The reminder in his mind made Ishida Shinkai's eyes quickly fall on Ishida Yuto. He didn't have a deep impression of this person. He only went to the ancestral hall to tell him about it when Ishida Sakari bestowed his surname on him. At that time, all my thoughts were on the incense, so I didn't pay much attention to it. Seeing that Ishida Yongdu has actually reached the level of prostration at this moment, Ishida Xinkai is also a little relieved, and the words he just said are not in vain. Thank you, my ancestors, for your success. Ishida bravely crossed over to become the Ishida family in the future. I will go through fire and water, and I will die. Finally, Ishida Yongdu raised his head, took a deep look at Ishida Xinkai, firmly recorded the appearance of Ishida Xinkai in his heart, and then said loudly, after speaking kowtow again, dang, dang, dang. There were 3 collisions in a row, and when Ishida Yongdu raised his head, the center of his brow was bleeding, but his brows were not wrinkled at all, and his eyes were full of enthusiasm when he looked at Ishida Xinkai. Seeing this, the others were unwilling to follow suit, kowtowing and worshipping. Thank you, my ancestors. For the Ishida family, I will go through fire and water, and I will die. Thank you, my ancestors. For the Ishida family, I will go through fire and water, and I will die. All the servants of the Ishida family paid homage. At this moment, they all saw the powerful means of the ancestor of the Ishida family. How could they dare to be disrespectful? While bowing their heads, they shouted loudly. As for the blood clan members of Ishida's family, Ishida Xinkai, their bodies were trembling with excitement. One by one shouted crazily in their hearts, look, this is the legendary ancestor of the Ishida family, who can illuminate the existence of the Ishida family for millions of generations. Well, I will always pay attention to all of you. As long as there is a shrine, I can come and dedicate your loyalty to the Ishida family. I can give you everything you want. Even if you are broken, I can make you resurrection. Let you watch your descendants pass down the generations with the Ishida family. Ishida Xinkai paused, took a panoramic view of everyone, glanced roughly, and continued. His words were like sharp arrows, piercing deep into the hearts of those servants, leaving an indelible mark. Most of the servants of the Ishida family came here to seek protection after being poisoned by the daimyo of Tianjigua, which led to the near extinction of the clan. Everyone is a seedling of the family, and there is no one who does not want to restore the family. Appearing is tantamount to giving them great hope. If they can be loyal to the Ishida family and to Ishida Xinkai, then they will also create their own family in the future, and protect their family like this old ancestor, even if they become the eternal servants of the Ishida family, as long as they can pass it on, so happy and not for it. But what those people think Ishida Xinkai doesn't know, he is more eager to know what is the ancestor hall that the system prompts. 25. Ishida Xinkai released the descending state and returned directly to the ancestral hall. System. What is that ancestral hall? As soon as Ishida Xinkai returned to the ancestral hall, she couldn't wait to ask in her heart. For Ishida Xinkai's inquiries, the system has always been responsive, and this time is no exception. The ancestral hall is a special building, and it needs to be opened after the belief status of those who have non-ancestral bloodlines reaches the 5-body throw. Ancestral spirits can build the Ancestral Protector's Hall by consuming 100 points of divine power. After construction, they can guide the dead population within the coverage of the ancestor's family into the Ancestral Protector's Hall by consuming the divine power. The people of Yinling will keep the daily incense offerings, and will automatically increase the incense offerings every 10 days. The system gives a detailed explanation, including the construction and operation of the ancestral hall. Guide them to become Main's spirit people? Listening to the system's explanation, Ishida Xinkai stared. In other words, he can forcibly keep people who should have entered the pure land of ultimate bliss by consuming the power of the gods. It turns out there is such a function. Ishida Xinkai was a little moved. Because of the blood relationship, the system will automatically keep the family members of their own blood. But those servants are different. They do not have their own blood. So Ishida Xinkai has been a little entangled in whether to promote those loyal servants. But he was also afraid that he would waste too much of his divine power. His own clansmen could still be spirit messengers in the future, and his servants would be gone when they died. But there is no need to worry now. If there is this ancestral hall, after the servants die, I can use the power of the gods to introduce them into it. Not to mention other things. Just the fact that the incense can be kept for worship is enough for Ishida Xinkai did this. Of course, the premise is that the servant's belief in himself is high enough, like that kind of superficial belief, he will not waste the power of the gods. Speaking of divine power, Ishida Xinkai cried again. He had accumulated more than 90 points of divine power. After this time, he directly used up 85 points and returned to before liberation in an instant. But thinking that those clansmen and servants had at least reached the level of worship, Ishida Xinkai immediately got rid of the loss of poverty. Faith panel enshrined as a god, generates 100 points of incense every day, 0.5 body projection, generates 30 points of incense every day, 3 zealous worship, generates 1 point of incense per day, 112 worship, generates 0.3 points of incense per day, 31 superficial belief, 0.01 point of incense value is generated every day. 2 except for my 2 newborn great-great-great-grandsons who are still ignorant. Everyone else has reached the lowest level of worship. Ishida Xinkai understands that as long as these tribesmen are around, his divine power will soon return, especially with the addition of 2 big heads with 5 bodies thrown to the ground. In a few days, when the incense sacrifice is refreshed, the divine power he consumed today will be enough. The supplement came back. At the same time, outside, as Ishida Xinkai left, everyone in Ishida's family also woke up from their excitement. Looking at the empty figures in front of them, many people are still a little bit lost. Young-do, congratulations. After Ishida Sorikari got up, he first looked at Ishida Yuto, patted Ishida Yuto's shoulder with joy, and said happily. The other servants of the family looked at Ishida Young-do with excitement, and they all knew that although Ishida Young-do was given a surname, in the final analysis, he was not a member of the Ishida family, but today he was able to win the favor of his ancestors. This means that other servants will also be able to receive the gift of the ancestors one day. Recalling what the ancestors said at that time, I will be a Jōnin within 5 years. Even our descendants will be in the future, not to mention that I will be loyal to the Ishida family and become a servant, even if it is a slave or a servant. I am willing to be a cow or a horse. A man who recently joined the Ishida family as a servant alone because his family was wiped out by the Tian Kingdom was excited, and his eyes quickly burst into fanaticism. At this moment, he suddenly entered the level of fanatical worship from worship. Servants are not the same as domestic slaves. Domestic slaves are just slaves who are sold to others, while servants are people who can enjoy family privileges. Joining the Ishida family is a nobleman, so the servants of the Ishida family are samurai lords, and their status is much higher. To ordinary people, Ishida Young-do looked at the smiling patriarch in front of him, who was somewhat similar to the ancestor, and he was also beaming with joy. The kindness of ancestors' recreation. Young-do will never forget. With that said, Ishida Yuto was about to bow down to Ishida Kukari, but was quickly supported by Ishida Kukari. We are all created by our ancestors. You don't need to thank me. The Jōnin that our ancestors mentioned just now should be you. You will be the first servant of the Ishida family to conquer the leader of the army for the Ishida family. You can join my Ishida in the future family meeting. Ishida Sorikari smiled. He didn't expect that the ancestor would suddenly do something like this today, but at the same time he was a little excited. He probably understood what the ancestor meant. Conquest troops? Listening to Ishida Xinkai's words, all the clansmen and servants were taken aback. That's right, I, the vanguard blade of the Ishida family, conquer the crusade troops. Ishida Sorikari nodded, his expression suddenly serious. As soon as these words came out, everyone immediately understood that the head of the Ishida family obviously didn't want the Ishida family to live in this corner of the country. But then, the servants of the Ishida family became excited again, because the greater the achievements of the Ishida family in the future, it means that their status will also rise, and even their descendants will be able to receive longer-term blessings. The rise of the Ishida family is unstoppable. Such a thought flashed through everyone's mind. We shall be the spears in the hands of the Ishida family, and the strong shields in front of us, vowing to continue the glory of our ancestors. Ishida Yudo understood Ishida Sora's thoughts, immediately knelt down on one knee, and said loudly, as Ishida Yuto, who has already fallen in love with Ishida Xinkai, it can be said that he is inseparable from his ancestors. The other servants did not hesitate, and immediately knelt down, shouting loudly, and the sound of the oath was like rolling thunder.
Thanks for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card, directly on my channel, or right here on the screen. And as always, if you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the comments too.